would like to call the meeting to order. And I think we have some special intentions today. Councilman Impastato.
On behalf of the entire Kenner Council and the administration as well, we'd like to take a moment of silence for our Congressman Steve Scalise, Archbishop Rummel alum, LSU alum, Acacia Fraternity alum, Steve Scalise, who, as sure we all are aware, had a very tragic incident and is in critical condition now in Washington, D.C. And so I'd like to take a moment of silence and keep him in our prayers. Thank you.
I would like to also say that Steve Scalise, Congressman Scalise, is a good friend. We wish him well in his recovery. Hopefully he'll be back to work soon and do a good job in Washington. We now have Councilman Reyno. Would you lead us into prayer, please?
Let us bow our heads and remember that we are in the presence of the Lord. We give thanks to our Creator God for the fathers in our lives. Fatherhood does not come with a manual, and reality teaches us some fathers excel while others fail. We ask for your blessings for them all and forgiveness where it is needed. This Father's Day, we remember the many sacrifices fathers make for their children and families, and the ways, both big and small, they lift their children to achieve dreams thought beyond their reach. So, too, we remember all those who have helped fill the void when fathers pass early or are absent, grandfathers and uncles, brothers and cousins, teachers and pastors, and coaches, and the women of our families. For those who are fathers, we ask for the wisdom and humility in the face of the task of parenting. Give them the strength to do well by their children and by you. In Jesus' name, O God, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. We have some Boy Scouts here today from Troop 223. We'd like them to come up to the front and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Impastato, are going to take your position for today. You don't have any objections?
He's a Boy Scout.
Okay. Okay, guys, would you lead us in the pledge?
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Council. We have a quorum this evening. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the Council meeting. Under the consent agenda this evening, we have Item 1, approval of minutes, the regular Council meeting of June 1st, 2017. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 2026-17, Tanisha Smith to hold a public gathering on July 9, 2017 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. for the purpose of a class reunion at Veterans Park in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3B is application number 2027-17, Mildred B. Simmons to hold a public gathering on June 24, 2017 from noon to 6 p.m. for the purpose of a family reunion at Veterans Park in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3C is application number 2028-17, Mitchell Brother Amusements to hold a public gathering on June 21, 2017 through June 25, 2017 from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Weekends from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the purpose of a community carnival at the Esplanade Mall in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 4 is correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads.
Mayor Zahn, I'll recognize you.
Thank you, Council Chairman. Just a quick report on Kenner sales tax, as I usually give. We are up about almost 6% over this time last year. This is despite a reduction in the mall this past month and also the airport taxing district, which I think is never good news to have that reduction there. But to overall citywide to be up by 6% over last year means that we're obviously doing something right with attracting business to the city of Kenner and keeping business here in the city of Kenner. We have seen up and down Williams, up and down West Esplanade, other areas of the city, and South Kenner also, of course, new businesses coming to the city of Kenner. We see new developments in District 3 that are coming on the corner of Williams and Joe Yenny. We see also the zoo facility, the Mr. Khan facility in your district, Councilman Segura, on West Esplanade. These businesses are being attracted to the city of Kenner. As we see the reduction at the mall and also at the airport, rest assured we are continuing to work with the mall. The mall has contacted us on some possible developments that will come there. We're not at liberty yet to discuss that at this point because they are in negotiations, but I think we will see a difference in the mall hopefully by sometime this time next year. We will continue to work with the airport and all businesses to attract to the city of Kenner. With that, we have received a number of grants which will make LaSalle's Landing on the levee more inviting. The Westerlies will be back for the week of July 17th through the 23rd, just in time to celebrate the relocation of our farmers market, which Councilman Carroll's been working very closely with us to put that at LaSalle's Landing on July 22nd. I think that'll be a much more accessible spot. The Rivertown After Dark series, these are all things happening in Rivertown. The Rivertown After Dark series occurs every third Saturday from 6 to 9. Come down this Saturday and we can see 9 artists showing their work. There will be food, drinks available to the event in all local restaurants. Check out the city's website for more family-friendly events occurring in Kenner this summer, and we all hope to see everyone there. And one more comment about Steve Scalise. We did decide to put up some portable reader boards in North Kenner and also in South Kenner to show our support and ask for prayers from our constituents. You will see those up on 2 spots on Williams Boulevard, asking for support and prayers for him to make sure that he gets through this. So I appreciate what Councilman Impostata said, and also you, Councilman Klein, and those special intentions, but we're showing our constituents that we're all thinking about him and his family in the city of Kenner. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
That will conclude your consent agenda tonight. Your motion and your second?
Motion by Councilman Wilmot, seconded by Councilman Klein on the consent agenda. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Councilmember DeFrances is absent tonight. Under the public appearance agenda tonight, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,241, an ordinance repealing Chapter 16 entitled Vehicles for Hire of the Kenner Code of Ordinances and replacing it with Chapter 16 Vehicles for Hire as per the ordinance contained herein.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to open public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 to open your public hearing.
Okay. Now, City Attorney?
Yes, sir.
We can grant each side 15 minutes to speak, 3 minutes per person if it's 5 people?
That is correct.
That's correct? Okay. Each side will be limited to 15 minutes. Okay. Could you state your name and address for the record, please, when you
Okay.
get a chance?
My name is Ahmed Sadawi, living in Kenner, 680 Spartan Lane. And I'm working as a cab driver. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation and respect for all. As we know, there is no industry or activity commences before writing the regulatory legislation. And all the cab driver and all hiring vehicles are subjected to transportation legislation, chapter number 162, which influences even the small details of the activity, like the wear of the cab driver. And from 2 years ago, a new transportation company entered the market called TNC and didn't subject to the same transportation legislation And this, we are talking about many justification for them. First, they said they are not true company because they are working on the internet using an application. And the company didn't have or didn't own vehicles or assets to be established. And the people using the app are not true employees, as they have no dependable contracts. These people have another authenticated jobs with dependent contracts. And so these people will use applications in a part-time as they are busy with their own business. And the people whom accepting the use of their own cars to share in transportation are limited in number. For all of this above justification, the activity of these people is not transportation, but it will be assist the transportation activities.
You have 30 seconds left.
Okay. So I have many because okay. And after 2 years, 2 years of working without control of the above justification, all this justification become down because the part-time working people becomes full working time. And the limited number of the working people and the cars become unlimited.
Your time is up now. Your time is up. Thank you.
Council President Klein?
Yes.
Hi. If I could just clarify, there's, in light of the number of people that have, stood up, it's.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Roussel is speaking, the city attorney for the city of Canton. She's going to clarify something for us. Thank you.
Thank you. 15.4 of the council rules, it limits the discussion to no more than 5 persons on each side of the question or the issue, and each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes each. So if, I guess each side wants to choose the best 5 to, speak, but obviously all of these people are not going to be permitted to speak.
Okay, we can have a maximum of 5 people from each side with a maximum of 3 minutes each person.
3
Okay,
minutes
thank
each
you.
person, 15 minutes on each side.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morello?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 45 years. I take it this item reflects what you all had agreed upon at that special meeting that was called by the mayor on the 5th of June, where Councilman Carroll and Councilman DeFrances was not present, where everything that took 3 hours at the last meeting to vote on took less than 20 minutes to rescind. I guess this item on the agenda here tonight reflects some of that took place in that special meeting? No? Okay. Well, at the last meeting, one of the sticking points was occupational licenses for contract operators, okay? Now, I agree with Councilman Segura, he was right, as far as I'm concerned, that if you're an independent contractor, it requires that you have an occupational license. And now, if you pass something that doesn't require these contract drivers, as stated by Uber, the outfit themselves, then you may be running afoul of Title 37, which is a state law, RS 37, 23, and 24. And then there's an ordinance in our charter under the 209 and 212 that talks about occupational licenses and permits as well. So if you pass something and it don't require them to have this, just make sure you're not running afoul of one of our ordinances or state law. That's all I have to say. Anybody got any comments, any question?
Councilman Klein, can I have the floor?
Yes. Councilman Impastato, you got the floor.
Yeah, Mr. Morello, just to address for your benefit, for everyone's benefit, who did not observe the special meeting that took place last week, I just want to make sure it's clear what went on and what effectually happened. The item that is on the agenda now, 9A, is the same item that was on at the June 1st meeting, okay? The amendments that were put into place and the adoption of that 9A 2 weeks ago with those amendments, okay, had that special meeting not taken place, it would have become law
Yeah.
unless and until the mayor vetoed that, okay? The special meeting, what the special meeting did when the members of the council who were present at that meeting, the appropriate number voted who were on the prevailing side, which, as you know, I was not, but voted to have it reconsidered. So all that did was put that item back on the agenda in its place, and the amendments that took place at that meeting were not made the effective law. You follow me? So in a way, so 9A is not changed or altered in any way from what was on the agenda 2 weeks ago. Does that make sense, Mr.
Yeah, that's
Morrell?
fine.
Okay, so I just want to make sure it's clear, and I will tell you, it's no mystery, there's going to be some amendments proposed tonight
Yeah.
that are somewhat different, that are quite a bit different than the amendments that were proposed 2 weeks ago. So
Okay.
that's, just so you know procedurally,
Right.
that's what went on. I don't know if that,
Yeah, I wasn't there, that's why,
does
that's
that
why I'm
address,
here.
does that address the
Yeah, it
concern
does.
here? Okay.
It does. And now, before I leave the podium, y'all froze the time on these speakers while you was talking, right, Councilman?
Oh, yeah. No,
Okay.
that wouldn't count
All right,
against it,
thank you.
no.
Thank you. Next. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a
Councilman
question.
Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. For a point of reference, Attorney Roussel, I think your explanation about what the charter stipulates was fantastic, but I don't believe everybody got it. So I think, and also to be able to ask them to see if they are for the changes or against, and you may have to be our scorekeeper, but once we get to 5, ladies and gentlemen, for each side, that will be it. So I'm not sure if you're in the back because you just can't find a seat, or if you're intending on speaking. But once we get to 5 for or 5 against, then that's going to be it. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. Thank you, Attorney. And I wouldn't count Mr. Morella as either for or against. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Mr. Morello, can you come up for a second? I want to ask you a question.
Finally get to ask you a question.
That's why I always ask if anybody's got any comments, any questions before I leave this podium. I don't mind coming back up here.
Good. Are you for or against the issue?
If nothing's going to change from the last meeting, then I'm for it.
Okay.
If anything is going to change, it's not going to, that may run afoul of the state law and one of our ordinances contained into our charter, then I'm against it. If there's going to be a change, if there's going to be any kind of conflict with state law or city law. That answers your question, Councilman Klein?
Yes, it does.
Thank you, my friend.
It depends. Very loyal.
Okay, next. Please state your name and your full address and whether you're for or against.
Okay, my name is Blanca Moya, and my address is 2913 Roosevelt, Kenner, Louisiana. I am here today to specifically ask a big favor to Mr. Mike Segur, since I am in your district. During your campaign, I did vote for you because I live in your district. Today, I'm begging you for a big favor, as you are my representative, that, I wanted to tell you how difficult time we're having right now. I don't have a problem working with somebody who's Uber driver or Lyft. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem when I'm the one who has to have commercial insurance, and I have to have a occupational license. I have to have a background check. I have to do all kinds of things in order for me to operate. So I'm begging you to, and I'm asking you to please help us. It's best off you can, because it's not fair. It is not fair for us. thinking like, oh my God, we have commercial insurance, we have car notes, we have all kinds of things. And I just don't think it's fair for somebody who's parking next to me doing the same thing as I do, and I had to, all of these regulations and rules that I had to come up with. And I thank you so much for that. And I know you're gonna help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Good afternoon, Councilman.
Good afternoon.
Mayor, I'm not a surprise to none of you all. I have stood in this position before, and I'm standing today because...
Can you state your name and address?
Addie Washington,
Okay, we need that for the record.
3033 Ohio, Kenner, Louisiana, 70065.
Thank you.
I'm here today because the last time I spoke, we asked y'all to vote on the 33 and 15. We were willing with that. But we also asked for them to have to do background check, physical, occupation license. These are the things that we have to have, and the insurance, which is commercial insurance. We operate by this. This is a requirement of Kenner. And I feel that it's nothing wrong with Uber, it's nothing wrong with Lyft. But if they're not meeting the same requirements, and what are y'all doing is putting people's lives in jeopardy. Because when they don't have the right insurance and something happened, I can say I got $100,000 insurance so that person get hurt. And then what happens when you find out you don't have that? Okay, it operates just like we do in the line of business, like a cab, so they should have the equipment to operate, just like we have to do. If we take a federal background check, they should take one. If we take a physical, they should take one. The requirements that we have should be passed on to Uber and to Lyft. As well as, I understand y'all want us to pay an additional $250 to Kenner. Well, we pay $200 to the airport. And if Kenner wants $250, all the drivers that drive for Kenner, that'll include the $200 that Kenner already collects from Kenner CP&Cs, then get it from the airport, because we done paid $200 already to be able to drive. Uber hasn't paid net penny. They haven't got up net penny out of their pocket. What is $4? What is 50 cents? We put out the bulk of the money. We take care of Kenner. Kenner drivers take care of Kenner. That's how y'all get your money. Now, when we give the airport that $200 to be able to work Louis Armstrong International Airport. And that's the purpose of it. And we go through the inspection. But if y'all gonna pass it where they're gonna do what we do, I'm for it. But if you're not, I'm not for it. Because right is right, wrong is wrong, and they are supposed to be governed underneath of the same laws that we are governed under. And if that's just like being a police officer, when he tell you you're governed underneath of certain state laws or certain laws, then there's no difference with them. They should be governed the same way. They don't have occupation license. Background check, you don't know if they murderers, rapists, what are they? We don't know that. We don't
20
know
seconds
what
left.
they are. But when you pull our record and you got our background check back, it's gonna specify everything about us, even if it's federal. And I know it to be a fact because I give somebody one that was federal that's sitting in the court today, a background check that I had to take through federal.
Your time is up now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Niran Gunasekara. I live in 253 Diane Drive, St. Rose, and I am the Vice President of the Taxi Cab Union, ASME Local 234. I'm here, before I start with the facts. A couple of weeks ago in the city of New Orleans, there was 13 people shot. And in the city of London, there were 6 people shot. And the Police Association of America has graded the city of New Orleans as the highest murder rate in the whole United States. So I want to ask Mr. Ben Zahn whether he has formed a commission to ask Mitch Landrieu what is he going to do about the crime. And most people who get into my cab, they're afraid to cross the street. They ask, is this safe? So that's one of my points. And let's get to the ordinance that's going to be discussed today. The citizens of Kenner should know what's the requirement for cab drivers to get a permit in the city of Kenner. Number one, they have to get 100% tested for drugs, okay, before they drive. I don't mind getting tested for drugs before I drive and after. Have me checked randomly too. That's fine with me. Then we have to go through a background check, which we got to give our fingerprints. And the fingerprints is very important. I know Uber, with their $1 million propaganda machine that they put out, if they gave their fingerprints, you wouldn't have found that guy who was robbing gas stations, chilling, and driving for Uber, okay? That guy would have been checked out right away if he gave his fingerprints. But since Uber has not required their drivers to give fingerprints, so he got a pass. Then you got to have a health certificate to drive in Kenner. And a lot of these cab drivers have been rejected lately, saying they have stress. I
30
asked
seconds.
them, are you kidding? If we don't have stress today with all these Uber and ride-sharing guys taking our rides, you think that's funny? I mean, we need to be fair with the rules and regulations you all ask of taxi drivers. Because after all, Uber and Lyft is a taxi company that their talk of this is a technology company.
Okay,
This is,
time's up now.
okay, thank you.
Thank you
I
very
want
much.
you to be fair.
Thank you for
Councilman
your comment.
Klein. Councilman Klein. Mr. Gunasekara, could
Can
you
you come back up?
hang tight for a second?
Yeah. Councilman Estado, you have the floor.
Did I pronounce it correctly, Gunasekara? Is that-
Yes, Mr. Impastado.
All right, I just want to make sure. I don't want to offend you.
Yes,
You used the term propaganda a little while ago
right,
about something Uber put out.
right.
Why do you call it propaganda?
Because it is propaganda. I mean, let me tell you something about Uber that I didn't mention because my time was out. Look what they did to that woman who was raped in India. The Uber executives were taking that medical file in their hands and laughing about because they didn't believe that woman's story. That's the type of company you support.
So you would agree with me when you say propaganda, you mean they're putting out something that's false, correct?
Of course, that's
Okay.
why they are paying fines in other courts.
I understand.
They're going to pay a lot more fines.
I understand. I
down the
just
line.
want to make sure when you use the term propaganda, you mean propaganda would be something they've put out because it misrepresents the facts,
Right,
correct?
Right.
Okay,
They paid
thank you.
$27 million in state of California
So-
for advertising. It's a safe ride.
Right. Because, and
Remember that
it's
case?
important to, you'd agree with me, it's important
Right.
that when someone puts something out in print,
Right.
that it's accurate and expresses the truth of the scenario, correct?
Could be, and I know you're a lawyer too, so you're going on the
Is that a fair statement?
lawyer.
Is that a fair statement?
I didn't understand your question, please.
Okay, that when someone puts something in print,
Right.
it is critical that what they put in print is true and
truthful,
accurate
yes.
and a fair representation of
That's
the truth.
right. That's
Fair
right.
enough?
Yes, fair
Okay.
enough.
You've been involved in how many meetings that I was involved in related to Uber, Lyft, TNC's, taxi cab regulations? How many would you say?
Well, I could say I've been seeing you since 2015.
Yeah, so it's been a couple years we've been together. You'd agree with me, wouldn't you, that every single legislation and ordinance related to Uber, Lyft, and TNCs that I have ever presented to you, every single one has included a requirement for background checks, correct?
not the background check we have to go through. There's a difference. I mean, it's nice.
Does it
to say
require a background
but
check?
It's not the same background.
Did every ordinance I proposed to you require Uber and Lyft to perform a background check?
Yes, I mean, that background check has
Okay.
holes in it. That's
Okay.
why,
But it requires a background check.
right, in
Okay.
state of Massachusetts.
Let's talk about drug testing.
Okay.
Would you agree with me, sir, that every single ordinance, piece of legislation that I've ever presented to you
Yes,
does in fact have a section entitled drug testing and would require Uber, Lyft, and every TNC to do random drug testing? Would you agree with that, sir?
yes, I agree, but the percentage of your drug testing is nothing. I mean,
I
if
understand.
you have thousands of Uber drivers and you want to only test 30, that's not a fair drug test.
I
random
understand.
Drug test.
So since every piece of legislation that I've ever been a part of, including 9A that is up for approval tonight, requires background checks from Uber and Lyft and random drug testing, then that printed material that you have so wonderfully decided to send to all of my friends and family and constituents and the lovely people in the city of Kenner
I have
would
no
be
idea
nothing
what
more
you're
than
talking
false
about.
propaganda.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have no idea
done,
what you're
Counsel.
talking about.
Thank you.
Wait, no. Wait.
Oh, Councilman Reno, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. You are the vice president of the cab union, is that what you said?
Yes,
And do y'all have a certain number of ADA compliant taxi cabs?
yes.
And what is the percentage of taxi cabs that are ADA compliant?
I cannot give you the exact number, but if you have more than 25 cabs in your fleet, then you have to have ADA compliance vehicles.
And y'all meet those requirements?
Yes,
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
thank you,
President.
Councilman.
thank you.
Okay. We have one more
Yes.
speaker on behalf of the taxi cabs, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
So I'm
my
not
name-
sure if Mr. Morello was in favor of the taxi cabs or against the taxi cabs, so we'll allow the taxi cabs one more
Okay,
speaker.
thank you.
You have 3 minutes. Would you state your name and address, please? for us?
Yes, my name is Smilja Sulejmanagic. I live in Metri, 645 80th Avenue, but I work for the Kenner and the airport. And we doing same job, we know that. And we need to have same rules, everything same. I think it's so easy to find out what I need to do to have inspection in the Kenner and work for the airport. Everybody know, it's the list. I even don't know what I need to do. And nobody never talk about the car inspection. I mean, I'm talking no about how old the car is, but in the inspection of the car, what I need to do, it's 2-page, to both sides of the page, how car need to be good and what they check, that I can work same job what everybody else doing. Nobody never talk about that. I mean, we need to have same rules about everything. The drug test, background, car, inspection, insurance, I don't know. And especially in United States, we know that. We can't live without following the rules, what doesn't matter who make. I mean, you know, government, city, Baton Rouge, doesn't matter. We need to follow the rules, and I do. If I don't do something wrong, it's because I don't know that, because I don't know all the rules what they have. But when they said, listen, this, you miss this, I do that. But we can't do same job without same rules. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Monroe Coleman, 600 Jackson Avenue. If I may, yesterday have brought attention to the elected officials how you are pressuring working people to make bad decisions. These cab drivers here have paid their dues, providing service to Metro New Orleans all their life. This is what they know. Now we have companies coming in, pushing them out of business. You have to understand what a level playing field is. It means level for everybody. When you drink the Kool-Aid that Uber and Lyft gives to you, it's unfair to this industry. And a lot of you are biased about it. We know what's going on because we the fly on the wall. This industry needs to be protected from each other. It even needs to be protected from you all as an elected official. It's your obligation, the pledge you took. Honor the men who made this city and this area for what it is. We are public servants. You also are public servants. But guess what? You become more self-servant, some of you, than public servants. The whole election of officers in this country is under the watch because some of you have not been upholding the pledge that you took. We need to be protected from each other. We need guidelines. We need areas of operation. Right now, we really need a no Uber, no Lyft zone, like they did in New York and Manhattan. You could bring into an area, but you cannot bring out of the area. You have to have people to control the industry. You don't have that control. Everything and Lyft and Uber could come all outside the area. It's no control. It's too many. It's not a fair field of play.
You have 30 seconds.
And you know it. I thank you for the time that you've given me. And what I said is gospel because you need to understand what we are against to stay in business to protect our families that we have done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to have to give them 6 also. Just to be fair,
All right.
it was number 6. Just to be fair, you guys will have 6 also.
All right, let's have some order here. Ma'am, let's have some order. You can't speak unless you get up to the podium. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll have the TNC 4 people.
My name is Fritz Messmer, currently residing at 933 Aris in Metairie, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to say a few words on behalf of Lyft drivers here in the great state of Louisiana. I've been driving for Lyft full-time for a little over a year, have given approximately 4,000 rides to people from many different walks of life. Some who are visiting from many parts of the world to enjoy the great attractions that our area has to offer, and some who are in need of a safe and affordable way to get home after work. Of those 4,000, probably about 10% were in the city of Kenner. Ride-sharing is not only the wave of the future, but it has arrived. And it helps to ease the burden of transportation needs to all our citizens. As a driver, I'm so thankful that this technology allows me to make a living to support myself, my wife, and my children. The flexibility of the hours allows for me to be there in a time of need for my family when they need me the most. The successes and advantages of ride-sharing speak for themselves. GPS tracking, two-way rating, 24/7 emergency helpline, and especially cashless transactions bring safety to a whole new level. The vetting process for Lyft is extremely thorough, and their third-party background check provider will go directly to the source if there is any discrepancy on a file that may disqualify someone from being on the platform. And I'd just like to throw in here, in my case, the background check found a moving violation misdemeanor 13 years ago that honestly I had forgotten about. And they not only wanted a detailed explanation of what took place, but went to the St. Tammany Parish District Attorney's Office to verify it. And I only know that because I have a friend that works there that wanted to know if I was planning to work for the CIA. The point being, to say that the background check, and I can only speak for Lyft, is thorough is an understatement. I'm so proud to be here today to support ride-sharing in the great city of Kenner,
You have 30 seconds.
and thankful for your reconsideration of this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Gwendolyn Wallace. I live at 4409 Lane Avenue, New Orleans. And I was glad to hear one of the cab drivers say that the metropolitan New Orleans area, that's a huge area. That's Kenner, Metairie, New Orleans, LaPlace, Slidell, Mandeville, Lacombe. All of that's considered Metro New Orleans. And we're driving in all those areas, helping people to get where they need to go. I've even been to Mandeville to pick people up to bring them to the airport where they actually do what's called the ride reserve because they have nobody over there to bring them. I've picked up people in Kenner and they all say they love Uber because cabs don't want to go to River Ridge because it's too far and they don't have a fare back. So there are people that work that told me that personally. So I don't know because I don't ride a cab in Kenner. Excuse me.
All right.
Is the clock stopping or do I keep talking over them?
Wait 1 second, ma'am.
Okay.
Wait 1 second.
If anybody screams out, they'll be escorted out. You got it?
You can't speak unless you're at the podium.
Continue?
Please, yes,
Okay,
please.
thank you very much. I'm a married woman with a disabled husband, a disabled daughter. Uber and Lyft have given me the opportunity to take care of my family and take care of our financial needs also, which were really suffering tremendously before I began doing this. They said that you guys' taxes have gone up. I spend at least $160 a week at Racetrack. I never spent money in Kenner before. You have thousands of drivers that come to Kenner, to Racetrack, Shell, that station right there by Lee's. We buy food, we buy gas, we get our tires fixed at the tire place here. So we're applying money to your economy also. We're not just trying to come here and take money from your economy. So what I'm asking is that this is a part of metropolitan New Orleans. Let it be a part of all of that. LaPlace, Kenner, St. Rose, Lacombe, Mandeville. Let us work to the best of our ability. I didn't have this opportunity before they got here. Now my house note is on time. Yes, I have a car note, but I pay it gladly, and I put those miles on it gladly so that I can help people to get. I picked up a lady at University Hospital today. I told her, I said, you know, they may be putting us out of Kenner. She said, no, what am I gonna do? I work at Bud's Burler here in Kenner. I work at Bud's Burler in City Park. When I have to go, I have to get an Uber because if I have to pay a cab, I can't afford it. So apparently we're making some kind of difference in your economy other than a negative one. So I'm asking that when you think about voting, think about what you're doing for a lot of people that didn't have a job, that couldn't work. Yes, I've undergone a background investigation. Yes, I have commercial insurance. I haven't been drug tested personally randomly, but I know drivers that have. And for the number of drivers, for me to know at least 4 that have, they are random drug testing. So all I can say is that the only thing you're asking for that I don't think that we are subjected to is an occupational license. But I'm sure if Uber and Lyft are here, you've required them to have something since they're representing us. Whatever that person with the 25 cabs have, I'm sure you're holding Uber and Lyft to some kind of standard also. All I know is this is a metropolitan area that you're part of. Don't put yourself on an island because no man is an island, and we all need each other. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Hello, City Council members. My name is Valentine Ford, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've lived on the West Bank for 5 years, and I started driving for Lyft and Uber. 2800 Cable Drive. New Orleans. And ride-sharing has allowed me to use my own personal vehicle to provide safe rides. I've met so many amazing people and friends driving for ride-sharing. And I would like to say, since ride-sharing has come to our area, it gives residents more options and allows them to use their cell phones to get rides on demand, whereas before that did not exist. Many parishes in the surrounding areas lack the transportation options to and from downtown. And I would also like to say that I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak today, and please allow ride sharing to continue here in Kenner by making the appropriate amendments. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Stephen Brontes. I live at 2651 Poydras Street, New Orleans, Louisiana. I first want to say that on a snowy evening in Paris in 2008, Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp had trouble hailing a cab, a very similar problem that people have right here in our metropolitan New Orleans area. So at that very moment, that's how Uber was born, to bring an option. And that's exactly what Uber and Lyft do. They bring a second option to transportation here in this area. I've been an Uber driver since 2015. I've performed 2,696 five-star, incident-free trips from places like New Orleans Airport to the city of New Orleans, from New Orleans Airport up Williams to Treasure Chest Casino, all throughout the metropolitan area. I would like to say I am completely against reinventing the wheel. I was raised with an old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The system's not broke. It's truly not broke. This far-reaching legislation will have detrimental effects, not only for the city of Kenner, but also, as my friend said, the metropolitan New Orleans area. Truly, what y'all are trying to do is reinvent the wheel. The system is operated in harmony as far as background checks are concerned. Before any of us Uber or Lyft drivers are allowed to see a home screen, there is a thorough background check. I myself didn't have anything in my record, thank heavens, but I do know countless numbers of people that wanted to drive for Uber, but they were disqualified. People that wanted to drive for Lyft, they were disqualified because of something that happened in their record. Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gregory. Hi, my name's Christy Weaver. My address is 8712 Livingston Avenue, Chalmette. I'm sorry, it's 8712 Livingston Avenue in Chalmette, Louisiana. We have Airbnbs in Chalmette, Louisiana. There's only 5 of us in Chalmette, Louisiana that do Uber and Lyft. If it wasn't for us 5 bringing those Uber and Lyfts into Chalmette from the airport, taxi cab drivers aren't going to Chalmette. I've had people in Gentilly at UNO. I'd get there, and I'm like, how come y'all didn't use a taxi cab? They told us an hour and a half to get us. Why is it taking an hour and a half to go to Gentilly? I've had people tell me taxi cab drivers won't bring us from the French Quarter to UNO because that's too far for them to go. But yet, y'all want to stop us to give people a safe ride from the French Quarter to Kenner, or from Kenner to Chalmette to their Airbnbs. I don't think it's fair. I don't think we should be put out of business for getting people to where they want to be at. And if it wasn't for us as Uber and Lyft drivers, we wouldn't be able to get them to where they need to be at. If I've had people in Chalmette want to go to the French Quarter for work. If it wasn't for me going to the French Quarter for work out of Chalmette, then they wouldn't be able to go to work. but you also have people in Kenner that want to go to the French Quarter. And the only reason why they use us as Lyft and Uber drivers is because they said they won't drive down there. And they won't take taxi cabs down there because taxi cabs take an hour and a half to get to their address in Kenner. But I have picked up people at Vintage Drive and brought them to Muriel's on St. Anne, out of y'all district. Do I think it's right and fair that y'all shut us down because people want to use us? No. And as far as them saying that we don't have insurance, Uber and Lyft carry over $1 million insurance policies on their drivers. So if we was to get in an accident, our passengers are insured through Uber and Lyft. They don't have to sue our insurance company. So I don't know what the taxi cab drivers are talking about. About 40% of our taxi cab drivers are Uber and Lyft drivers. They just don't want to tell y'all that.
You have
I've
20
had-
seconds left.
Sir? I'm sorry, I heard something.
You have 20 seconds left. Now you got 15.
I'm good. I just wanted to say that we
Okay.
do have insurance. I was a deputy for 11 years with OPSO. I quit to do this. I was tired of being in the jail. I'm now doing this, and it gives me freedom to move around and do as I please.
Your time is up now. Thank you.
Afternoon, gentlemen.
This will be the last person to speak on these issues.
Name's Aaron Donarski. I'm 29919 Park Street in Walker. I've been driving with Uber since its inception. As soon as it got here to Louisiana, I drive in Baton Rouge as well as New Orleans. The reason I do it, I have a wife, 4 kids, and the youngest is disabled. With all of his medical appointments, I can't hold a normal job. The only job I can do is Uber, and it provides me the opportunity to turn it on and off when I can and when I want. So if he has an appointment, I can take him to it, I can come home. I carry my own insurance. I drive my own car. Uber backs me and my passengers while I am operating. So if anything were to happen to my passengers, they are covered. I am covered. Nobody has to get sued, everything is just fine. If the city is worried about us bringing money into the city, I do that every time I roll in here. I drive from Baton Rouge, I come here, first place I go is that corner gas station on Loyola. I fill up my tank. It costs $48. I come here, I make my money. Before I leave to go back to Baton Rouge, I stop at Loyola again, at the other side at the Circle K, fill up my tank, and go home. So I am bringing money to your city. If I get a flat, which has happened before, I've had it fixed right on Williams Boulevard. So I am bringing more money to your city. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, motion closes. Your public hearing is closed. Motion passes.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to approve. The council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, I've
Oh, I'm
received
sorry.
some requests this evening to amend this ordinance. If there's no discussion prior to that, I'd like to start reading the amendments into the record.
I'd like to make a motion to go through each of the
Yes.
amendments.
Yes, sir.
As opposed to global.
Absolutely. I will read them individually for you. The first amendment that we've received tonight would amend Section 16-4. We will delete that section in its entirety and replace it with the following. Any transportation network company desiring to operate within the corporate boundaries of the City of Kenner shall make written application for and obtain an occupational business license issued from the jurisdiction within the state of Louisiana, which it is the domicile of that individual or business entity, which license shall be maintained in full force and effect. If I could get a motion and a second on that amendment?
Motion by Councilmember Segura.
I have a point of reference, and maybe I didn't explain it clearly enough. I would like to vote on each amendment independently.
Yes, that's what this is.
That's what you're doing.
This is
So
your
are we,
first
are we,
amendment.
we're on the first one now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klon to approve the First Amendment.
For discussion, I'll yield to Councilman Carroll.
Look, you can.
Oh, okay.
You can open- Yeah.
The discussion here on the purpose of an occupational license, we have obviously had a lot of different discussion on this topic. After we passed the legislation 2 weeks ago, which had discussion amendments, there was apparently, obviously everyone's aware, a lot of outcry from the Uber, Lyft, TNC industry that topic was overburdened and overburdensome for them as well as their drivers. That became a very contentious topic where the TNCs voiced their strong objection and went so far to say is that they would be more than likely pulling out of this area as a result of that. As some of the comments that were said, let me clear this up. At no point over the last year of negotiations, meetings, discussions, has it ever been the desire of anybody on this council to not allow the TNCs to operate. We hear you when you point to us, particularly some of us, and say, don't run me out of business. There was never any discussion, never any intent or desire to stop the TNCs from operating. Pure and simple. But we do have an obligation to maintain regulatory rights over vehicle for hires, which is through the state law, gives us that mandate. So when we started this discussion with the TNCs for bringing them into the regulations is where all we were doing. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of rewrites on this legislation, and I said 2 weeks ago, I strongly commend our city attorney, Mr. Ed Rapier, who has got to be stressed to no extent to the amount of times he has rewritten and kept track of all of the changes in the words in this Chapter 16 legislation, which has been on our books for years and years and years. All we're discussing is how to bring the TNCs into this legislation and allow you to continue what you do. We welcome that, but there has to be some standard of regulations. You cannot just expect to operate in an unregulated fashion. So that's all we're doing. Obviously, as I said, this occupational license became a contention. Discussions were had after some procedural steps. Certainly our mayor, as you're aware, had a choice to outright veto the legislation, put it back on day one discussion. There was a desire to continue the work to resolve some of the language. So that did take place over the several days between the Thursday meeting and the Monday special meeting that the mayor called, yes, there were discussions between council members on how to work out language that would make this compromise doable. We, at that time, came up with this language as you hear right now. So I'm just going to put that at rest for right now, and then I'm going to come back on a close, but I'll yield to Councilman Carroll.
Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilman Segura. And I'm glad you brought up the part about saying that we as a body, or we as the mayor, or we as the administration is trying to run any particular company out of the city of Kenner. That would be counterproductive on every level. We invite people on a daily basis, and if you were here earlier to hear the mayor talk about the sales tax going up, it wouldn't be happening if we were not inviting people to come in. So just to echo my council friend Impastaldo saying that the propaganda is out there, there's a whole lot of propaganda out there. Because we have never as a body, as a city, ever said we don't want the TNCs to operate. Personally, I have friends who are TNCs, I have friends who are taxi drivers. I am not for or against any particular body. It is a great opportunity for taxi drivers and TNCs to make additional monies for their families. This is a great opportunity to be able to have these companies come in and do that. I understand that. But I also understand that we are not trying to put anybody out. We are not for anyone against the other. I have heard things, even from friends that and maybe me personally, that we are for big government, or we are anti-business, or anything like that. And this based on my personal voting record. I have never voted on any legislation based on that. I look at things independently, and I base it on that. I don't hear the whistle on certain things that because I am this or I am that I should vote on it. So I will never and have never voted on that. I don't know everything. I mean, I'm wrong sometimes. Obviously, nobody knows everything. But it's not, I mean, there are some things worse than being wrong. And I think one of the things would be dogmatic. And dogmatic is to put yourself in the position that you don't listen to other people's positions. That is worse than being wrong. I can be wrong. I can apologize after it. But I hope I never get to the point where I don't listen to people and hear their side of the story. I guess some of that have been on both sides. It is our responsibility to not to be dogmatic, to listen to both sides. And we're going to make decisions based on that, like any court of law, anyone does have to make decisions. We can't run away from it. This is our job, and we have to do it. We have to do what we feel is best for the city of Kenner. So that being said, as it relates to this particular amendment, the occupational license, we have never, I think one of the ladies said that, we have an opportunity to pay fees or whatever to the TNCs. Actually, the TNC said that each independent TNC driver, you guys are your own company, that you guys don't work for them. That's why we have had so many discussions as it relates to the occupational license. Because in the city of Kenner, everybody who has a business is required to have an occupational license. Out of the mouth of the Uber representative, you guys are independent. And I'm not here to argue that or against that. They've said that, and we understand that. We may have different opinions about that, just like was brought up in that special meeting, but either you agree with that or you don't agree with that. And that's what it boils down to for this particular legislation. My particular opinion is that an independent company is an independent company. That's my personal opinion, and that's how I'm not going to support taking it off, because I believe, based on what Uber said, that you are an independent company. I think I can't compare you to a taxi. I can't compare the taxi to the TNC, because you are different. You provide the same services, but I can be fair what I think is fair. And if I'm going to be wrong, I'm going to be wrong on my ability to what I think is fair. And in my opinion, I will not be supporting to scrub or to take off or to ease the information as it relates to the occupational license. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Reynaud, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for the legal department. This vehicle for hire legislation that's up here requires taxi cabs to have an occupational license. If you're a taxi cab company, and let's say you have 20 cabs, does that mean that those 20 drivers don't need an occupational license because they're operating under that cab company's occupational license?
The question of an occupational license is a multifaceted answer. The first question is the business domiciled in the city of Kenner? If the business is not domiciled in the city of Kenner, or the person, whether it's a corporate entity or an individual as a sole proprietorship, if they are not domiciled in the city of Kenner, Kenner does not require them to have an occupational license. So the first step into determining who needs an occupational license is whether that business or entity is domiciled in the city of Kenner. Secondly, to answer your question about, or to answer, the next step is to whether the person is an independent contractor or the business is an independent contractor, or whether the business is or the person is a W-2 employee of a company. The person is a W-2 employee of a company, they are not an independent, they are not a business by definition, and they would not need an occupational license. And then you get into the question of what constitutes a business.
So this amendment, as it states, if Uber did not have an office in Kenner, they are not required to have an occupational license because they're not domiciled in Kenner.
They are not required to have a Kenner occupational license.
Okay.
This amendment, as it states now, requires a TNC company to have a occupational license from a jurisdiction within the state of Louisiana where they are domiciled.
And if they don't have an office or a storefront in the state of Louisiana, let's say their storefront is in New Jersey, I'm just trying to clarify it. I'm just trying to understand.
The New Orleans ordinance requires them to have a storefront in the city of New Orleans. So they will be required to have, a TNC will be required to have a occupational license out of the city of New Orleans, which Kenner is making sure that there is at least one occupational license from the state of issued somewhere within the state of Louisiana.
Okay. Again, my question on the taxi company, if we had a taxi company in Kenner that had 20 taxis, would that mean that this legislation says that that taxi company gets their occupational license and that covers all 20 of those cabs?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. That's my only question. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Councilman Impastato, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'll reserve my general comments till later, but with respect to this particular amendment, for me, the biggest challenge that I've had, well, I guess this does relate to all of the amendments, is consistency and regionalism. We would be the first community to require an occupational license of every driver for Uber and Lyft and TNCs, as we understand it, potentially in the country. That is not a contest I think we want to win. So in the interest of consistency, I am for this amendment because it would require the company, as long as it has its license in an occupational license within the state of Louisiana, that would cover all such drivers. Additionally, whether or not, I think to add something separate that requires individual drivers to have an occupational license would be somewhat redundant, because if we already have a law on the books that says an occupational license is required for every business, well, then that law is on the books. and then it becomes within the purview of the code department and the administration and the enforcement agencies of the city of Kenner to determine and make their interpretation as to what level of enforcement they want to do on whether it's pizza delivery drivers, Uber drivers, carpenters, landscapers. It really doesn't matter. It applies to all businesses equally. So I see no reason to have a separate provision specifically for TNC drivers, and I believe it's the more prudent course of action to not impose an additional burden that would be beyond what is required by any of our regional partners and potentially even in the country. So thank you. For those reasons, I'm supportive of this amendment.
Thank you, Councilman. Council members, please vote.
No other discussion? No other
Oh.
discussion?
Yeah. No other discussion?
Just to close, like I said, this is
I'm
picking up what Councilman Impostata just said, and the same thing with Councilman Carroll. The language here is the way it reads. As Councilman Impostata said, we still have language in our city codes for occupational licenses, and that's an enforcement issue as to whether any independent company, business, person's business needs to be applied, and that's will be done by our code enforcement department. So I encourage everyone to please vote for this.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to close the discussion.
On the amendment?
On the First Amendment, huh?
On the amendment?
Yeah. Just vote.
No, this is on the amendment, to vote
Yeah,
on the First
First
Amendment that I read. Nay?
Aye.
Yay? 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 Nay? Motion passes 4-2. Council members Rayno and Carroll are opposed. On the next amendment this evening? It would be Section 1683, Section 8. We will delete Section 8 in its entirety.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein.
We will be deleting Section 8 of 16H of 1683. Would you like me to read H into the record, what we're deleting?
The one on the DUI? DUI?
Yes. Let me read what yes, sir, I will read what we are deleting from the ordinance. Every quarter, the department may send to any TNC a list of up to 25 TNC drivers for a random background check. 90% of the drivers selected for a random background check shall come from the 500 drivers with the most rides in the previous quarter, and the remaining 10% shall be selected from all the other drivers. Within 5 days of receiving the list, the company shall complete the random background check as required in Section 1638 and provide the results to the department. That will be deleted from the ordinance. If I could get a motion and a second on that amendment?
Move. I move.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein, to remove the wording from the ordinance. Councilman Carroll, would you like to speak on the amendment?
There he is. Yeah, the difference between what we are amending compared to what we voted on last 2 weeks ago, and what is the biggest difference or clarification? I know we were kind of skewed with our numbers, so if you can help me out.
On this particular
Yes, sir.
amendment, this was not something that had been in any of the earlier drafts. It was never discussed earlier on about random background checks. And in the discussions post the last meeting, we were going to go back to what the language was before this particular random background check was put in. So all this is doing is removing the issue of random background checks, which had never truly been discussed up until shortly before that meeting.
He didn't say so.
Okay, if I can, for a point of order correction. This is not removing random drug testing. This is just not adding the provision of a 90-10.
This is not drug test. This
Or
is
the
background.
background.
This is background check.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we had never had in any earlier drafts random background checks. We had always had random drug tests, but the random background checks was a new issue that was raised shortly before the last meeting.
Yes, and thank you. Listen, thank you yourself, Attorney Roussel. This has been a lot of us asking questions about this, trying to get clarification because it changes. It was different information coming in, so you guys have done a great job keeping us abreast of this. This is something new that I didn't remember exactly having a conversation, so it is something new, something else added at the very last minute. So thanks again for your support, and I understand this is background check, not drug. Correct.
Background checks will still be in the ordinance, but there is not a random, assuming that this amendment is passed, there will not be a random background check.
Thank you.
There will still be background checks required, and in fact, they would be required every 2 years when with the reapplication of the, I think it's every 2 years. I can go back and find
Yeah,
it
I think I
exactly.
read every 2 years.
But there are continuing background check requirements. It's just not random.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear of that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Reno, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Rapier, the Section G of here says that the TNC shall maintain records of criminal background and driving record checks performed on all employed or contracted TNC drivers operating in the city of Kenner for a period of no less than 2 years. So basically, they are doing background checks and driving record checks on all of their drivers. Is that the way I understand it?
That is correct.
And it further states that if the director of the Department of Inspection and Code or a Kenner Police Department official requests access to such records, the TNC or its designee must provide those records within 24 hours of that request. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. That's my only question. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Yes, please,
Councilman
thank you.
Segura, you have the floor.
No, appreciate it. Again, I'm sorry for the confusion in front because I thought we were on the drug part of it, but not the background. Yes, just to clarify this, because I know that I've heard some comments from the taxi drivers. There has been and will always be background checks performed on all drivers. How that background is done, there is some language difference between what is done for taxis and what's done for TNCs. The TNCs will utilize their own or nationwide companies to do the background check and report those findings to us. We were very intent to ensure that background checks on a national basis are done and are reported to us. And if anything I say, Mr. Rapier, correct me if I'm wrong, but the TNC applicant cannot start working until they have passed that background check, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're not letting them go to work or let them get by without a background check. They will get a background check to the satisfaction of our code department that they have met the requirements of a background check. So just hoping that understandably makes sense to y'all that there is no background check. They will be background. Thank you.
And Councilman Segura, just since I mentioned it and I want to be able to cite to the right place, in subsection D of this exact same section 1683, it does state that the background check shall be conducted at least once every 2 years for the duration that an individual operates under the TNC.
Correct.
So those background checks will have to be redone.
Reinforced every 2 years.
At least once every 2 years.
Correct. Thank you.
Correct.
No other discussion.
Okay, thank you. Okay. No one else wishing to speak? Motion by Councilmember Segura and seconded by Councilmember Klein to close.
Just to vote.
Yeah, vote on amendment.
No, two.
Second amendment, as I read it in.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 6-0 on the Second Amendment. The third amendment this evening would be Section 1684. We will be deleting the second sentence. That sentence reads, 90% of the drivers selected for a random drug screen shall come from the 500 drivers with the most rides in the previous quarter, and the remaining 10% shall be selected from all of the other drivers. That sentence will be deleted from Section 1684.
Move.
I second it.
All right, for clarification, what happened here was, in the original draft, random drug testing was required, 25 tests per quarter. In an attempt to massage that to perhaps get to the more frequent driver pool, a discussion that I initiated as a thought, and then at our committee meeting presented to the public that was present. There was discussion that this 25 per quarter, and as I was hoping to suggest, be reduced to the top 500 users, created some concern that there's perhaps thousands others, because we don't know how many drivers there are for TNCs, but anything past 500 may never get drug tested. So one of our very astute, diligent citizens of Kenner at that meeting says, well, why don't you do 90-10? Do 90 of the top 5 and then 10 of the balance of the drivers. And it seemed logical, so we put it in here. But as you may recall from the last meeting 2 weeks ago, there was a deliberate discussion with Councilman Impastato on how do we test a half person. So, which brought to light that, yeah, that was a problem. So in follow-up discussion, as I said, to compromise is why we're removing the top 500 and the 90-10 language. So we still will do random drug testing, 25 per quarter. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Councilman Wilmot, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to mention, too, that, I mean, the ratios that we had in there, we were trying to do something good, but what happened ultimately is the numbers were flawed. So as a result, what we did is now it's a cleanup. We got to clean it up and make it so it's workable. So that's what this amendment does. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to approve the amendment. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. On the Fourth Amendment this evening, Section 16-225, we will delete the third sentence, which reads, at a minimum, a TNC vehicle fare shall be no less than the charge for activation of a taxi meter pursuant to this chapter.
Move.
I second it.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, second by Councilmember Klein. Councilman Segura, will you allow Councilman Carroll's
Yes.
question?
Thank you, Mr. President. And to be more specific about this, Attorney, as it relates to the change from the last time, where's the language as it related to the additional driver? This is the amendment that is that part is being struck out, or is that still in our ordinance as it is in its present form?
That issue comes up in your next amendment.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to vote on the amendment.
Are we finished discussion?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I thought,
Oh, I don't have any more discussion. I yielded to him because he had a question, but I'll.
Did you have any discussion?
yeah, I do have a question.
Okay, Councilman Reno, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So So basically, this is just about the fee, this is not just about the fee from the airport. This is about any minimum fee. I guess my question's for Mr. Rapier. This is about any minimum fee that is in this vehicle for hire legislation as far as taxis. So if taxis go from here to Harahan, they have a fee schedule that's in this ordinance, correct?
They have a fee schedule in this ordinance as it relates to, and I don't want to misquote, so if you give me a minute to get
Sure.
to the specific section in the ordinance. You would find that, I think, in section 209. Where there are set fees deals with airport rates, not with general taxi rates. You have taxi meter rates that apply to everywhere except for going from the airport. So if your question is from the airport to Harahan, yes, there would be a fixed fee for taxi cabs.
But only from the airport.
Only from the airport, it's a metered fare to elsewhere.
Okay, so if they go from Treasure Chest Casino or the Holiday Inn, Crown Plaza, or anywhere, doesn't apply.
It's not a fixed fee, it's a metered fee, except from the airport. The airport has fixed fees.
Okay, thank you, that was my only question. Thank you, Mr. President.
You can do them all like that.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Impastato, I'm sorry, Mr.
Klein.
Klein, to amend.
Okay. On the
Approve.
amendment,
The amendment?
Aye.
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 motion passes 6-0 on that amendment. The next amendment would be Section 16-226, to delete it in its entirety and replace it with this. Rates from the Louis Armstrong International Airport to the City of New Orleans, and rates from the Louis Armstrong International Airport to the City of New Orleans shall not be less than $33.
Move.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein,
Have a,
to approve as amended. No discussion?
No, there's discussion, but
Darrell, you
have a
you
discussion.
had the floor.
okay.
You wanted to?
Oh, I was just going to explain, but you can, if you want.
Yeah, I got my answer before from the attorney as it relates to this. And part of my discussion is going back to our last meeting. I don't want to be redundant as it related to Uber's explanation as it relates to one fee being charged if you leave Kenner at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then coming back from a entertainment or a something, that the fee could almost double or triple, and that is built in their formula because based on the number of people that will be required to support the event, and that is their model. I am in not a position to say it's good or it's bad, but I am in a position to have an opinion, again, on being fair as it relates to the additional person that the taxi drivers are. There's a fee of, I think it's $15. This would, in essence, take this out, correct?
As it applies to TNC.
As it applies to TNC, correct?
That's correct.
And I mean, if I can understand and be understandable about the increase in the fares that are different from ours, from you being able to, I have to be able to understand something that's built in also to support another industry, to make it fair. So based on that, I will not be supporting this particular amendment. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Councilman Reno, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right, for clarification, again, what we're proposing is a $33 minimum charge from the airport to New Orleans and from New Orleans to the airport, correct?
No, sir. The actual amendment reads, the actual proposed amendment reads, rates from the Louis Armstrong International Airport to the City of New Orleans shall not be less than $33. Kenner has no authority to set a rate from New Orleans to the airport.
Okay.
We only have the authority to set the rate from the airport to New Orleans.
Okay. Next question. The airport sets rates for the cab drivers from New Orleans International Airport to New Orleans. There's a set rate for the cab drivers. Is there also a set rate for Uber drivers?
I don't know the answer to that question.
If I can, Councilman Reno, the understanding that I have, first off, and let me just, the city of New Orleans set the rate from the airport to the city of New Orleans, which is something to be determined and discussed maybe at a later point. The airport is accepting that rate of $33, and we'll get to this more directly in a few minutes, but the TNCs have accepted in a conversation that I was party to that they will be acceptable to the $33 from the airport to the city of New Orleans.
Okay. I know I've read the contract that Uber has with the New Orleans International Airport. Do you have a copy of that?
I will in a second. I don't
Okay.
have it in front of me.
Thank you, because I
But
didn't
if
bring
you
my
give-
copy with
If
me.
you give me a minute, I will go to the email that I sent it to you, and I can pull it up.
Thank you, sir.
Or if technology works, I will.
Yeah, that takes our Wi-Fi to work.
It does take the Wi-Fi.
The operator error.
All right, I have it, Councilman. And the question?
The question is, what is the rate in that contract that a Uber driver, the minimum rate that a Uber driver has to charge from the airport to New Orleans? It's specifically stated in that. And if you're looking for a dollar amount, it's not a dollar amount. It ties to an ordinance in New Orleans, a New Orleans ordinance.
I was looking for something that said rate, but I didn't see that, but if you
Yeah.
give me a minute. I'll
So,
find
so it ties to the ordinance. The point that I'm trying to make here is that New Orleans International Airport, in their agreement or their contract with Uber, it says that they have to charge a minimum rate based on the ordinance that was passed in New Orleans. And the ordinance that I read in New Orleans said $36, which is the same rate that the taxi cabs have to charge. Minimum rate is $36. So the point that I'm trying to make here is this is a level playing field as far as this goes, going from the airport
Councilman?
to New Orleans, yes.
If I may, if you look at section 16, it's section 162-1729 of the City of New Orleans's TNC ordinance, it says the minimum charge for trips to or from the Louis Armstrong International Airport shall be no less than $33 per trip.
Okay, so it's 33
33 for Uber.
and 36 for a taxi.
I haven't looked at the taxi rate. I went to the Uber rate. But if
Okay.
you give me a minute, I can get to the taxi rate.
Sure.
Section 162-753. It says, for taxi cabs, except as provided hereinafter, the taxi cab rate to or from the Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport to or from the same destination in New Orleans shall be $36 for one or two passengers.
I stand corrected, okay? I thought they were both the same, and you're telling me that they're different.
They're different.
Okay, but our $33 will be the same as New Orleans, which is the same rate that the New Orleans aviation contract states that Uber has to charge.
That is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate you clarifying that.
Thank you. Councilman Wilmot, you got the floor?
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. The $33, Mr. Rapier, that doesn't have anything to do with what the city receives, is that correct?
That $33 is what the taxi or the, because at the last meeting, you amended our taxi rates to $33. So the $33 is what the taxi or Uber receives. It is not a payment to New Orleans.
It's not a payment to Kenner either, correct?
It is not a payment to Kenner either.
That's all I want to know. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay.
If I can.
Councilman Segura, you have.
Yes. Yeah, this was a topic that did have some dilemmas because the to and from language in both the City of New Orleans ordinance as well as in our current and previous language in our legislation to and from. As Mr. Rapier commented a few minutes ago, we can only set rates from the City of Kenner to elsewhere in the region. So with that is where we, at last meeting, but again reinforcing at this meeting, hopefully are agreeing to the $33 rate from the airport going out to the City of New Orleans so that it is the same level as both the TNC and taxis will charge or can charge. By removing the language that we had to and from City of New Orleans, I hope puts us in that clear position that we are only setting the rates from the City of Kenner, that we are not telling the City of New Orleans or any industry what they must charge to come back out to Kenner. Presumably, the City of New Orleans Council will set that rate. I do have a problem on their legislation saying to and from the City of Kenner or the airport and telling industry what they must charge to leave our city and go back to their city. But it is the same that we're agreeing to put in here, so at this time, I hope we're okay.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to amend.
Nay.
Aye.
Please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 4-2. Councilmember Reyno and Carroll are opposed. Back to your original motion as amended.
Okay, I'd like to open.
Your motion would be Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein.
I'd like to open.
To open discussion.
Okay, now that we've gotten through the amendment portion, and now we're going to discuss the legislation that's in front of us to make a final vote. Want to certainly reiterate, as I have said before, that I want to thank all of the parties, all of our council members, the staffs, the legal, Mr. Rapier, and all of the entities that we have met with between taxis, limos, shuttles, TNCs, both Uber, Lyft, and have heard from many, many other entities like business groups, Jefferson Business Council, Chamber of Commerce, Jefferson Chamber of Commerce, Kenner Business Association, I'm not sure if there's a representative here, a tremendous amount of contact from users of taxis and TNCs, tremendous amount of contact from drivers of both taxis and TNCs. Trade unions that represent taxis. With all of this information is how we are gathering to this time right now in the hopes of putting together a ordinance that allows, first off, the TNCs to operate legally. I know the TNCs may see it differently, but they have been operating illegally in the city of Kenner because they never presented themselves to us to say, hey, we want to do business in your city as a vehicle for hire. So subsequently, this task that's been taken is to allow you to operate, as I've said earlier, and do so legally at some regulatory standard. So what we've come to tonight that we have hopefully come to a compromise from everyone I've just mentioned is that it's something that we can all live and work with. It's truly, truly our desire to do it that way. Does it make everybody happy? Unfortunately, I'd love to say yes, but realistically, I know it's a no. But everybody in our normal life cannot have everything that we want the way we want. We do have to make compromises. So bear with us. This has been a lengthy journey, and it will probably not be the end of the journey. At this time, I will also let the taxi drivers know that, yes, it is and has been the desire, not only for myself, but others up here, to attempt this level playing field discussion and make it work. If it meant bringing the TNCs up to a level of regulations that were set for y'all, that was probably the goal, but unfortunately, as you can see, we're not there. So my answer to that will be is my pledge that when we finish this, I will be back to work finding regulations that are in place for you that we can release you from. Obviously, now that the free market is taking over, you do have competition from these other entities, that it is inherent that government not be in your business and regulated as strongly as we have been, but we still are not completely free of doing that because of some state mandates. So as I said, I will be back at work along with others up here who have agreed to work with me, and we are going to continue to find language in the regulations that you have to work under and seek a resolution to remove you from those, to then bring you down to less expense and less burdensome regulations. Let's see. Next, I would like to, is Mr. Paul Harang here with City of New Orleans? Sir, please come forward. After you give us your name and title, whatever you do, I'll continue.
Yes, sir. Council members, my name is Paul Harang. I'm with the Mayor's Office in the City of New Orleans. Address is 4123 General Pershing Street in New Orleans.
Okay, Mr. Harang, thank you for coming tonight. I was notified by Deputy Mayor Ryan Burney that Mr. Butterworth, who has been with us through this journey and has been a good person that we relied upon on insight from the City of New Orleans' direction, could not make it, I presume, at least, so they sent you.
Right. Yes, sir.
Good and bad. But my first question then is the City of New Orleans and the New Orleans Aviation Board acceptable to these ordinance as amended and hopefully will be voted on tonight?
Yes, sir.
No other problems?
There are no problems with the ordinance and amendments. We thank you for your work, and Mayor Zahn and the rest of the council for the collaborative approach to this issue.
Thank you. Okay, that's fine. Next, I'd like the representative of Uber. I know Mr. Nick Giuliani is not here, so who's that going to be?
Christian Rhodes.
Good afternoon or evening. My name is Christian. My name is Christian Rhodes. I'm with a partner at the law firm of Rodell Parsons, and we proudly represent Uber and have for several years.
Well, first off, Mr. Rose, thank you for coming. Like I said, we've had Mr. Nick Giuliani here.
Yes, sir.
Has been the person of voice of Uber that we've dealt with for many, many discussions. Actually, I'm glad to meet you because I understand now you and I stood together in this chamber in the House and
Many days.
did not know who you were at the time, but now that I know who you are, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Same question. Is Uber satisfied that this regulation is something that they can work under and not threaten to leave this region?
Yes, sir. I believe the ordinance as amended currently puts the regulations into place that allows and affords for safe transportation services via TNC. We are humbled and grateful to the council and to Mayor Zahn for their leadership, for your collective leadership and cooperation with us, with Taxi, with the City of New Orleans, in recognizing that this technology and that this service will be able to carry forward in a fruitful way. Excuse me.
Thank you. Representative from Lyft. Who's that tonight? Oh, there he is.
Good evening. Johnny Damiano. I'm with Adams and Reese, 4500 One Shell Square, New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm here this evening for Lyft.
Same question. Is Lyft agreeable to this legislation as amended and agreeable to work under it and not threaten to leave the city of Kenner or the region?
I'd also like to thank the council and the mayor for the hard work done on this particular ordinance and the amendments. And the ordinance with the amendments as passed today, Lyft they can and are able to operate in the city of Kenner under these particular amendments as approved today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like Mr. Todd Murphy with the Jefferson Chamber of Commerce. Would you please come up? You can come on, Tony. You'll be next.
Good evening. Thank you guys for this collaboration.
Just name and address, though, please.
I'm sorry, Todd Murphy, 4236 Bordeaux Drive in Kenner.
Thank you, Todd. Again, you have been very vocal in this process, which is good. We need to hear these things. But same question. Are you and your organization now satisfied that we have reached a compromise that is workable for this region and these entities to conduct business?
We are. As I stated to you guys, I think in 3 different letters and in several different conversations, we need alternative types of transportation, and we need to open up transportation in Kenner to get people to our retail establishments, to get people to restaurants, and to our hospitals and people that need medicine and medical care. And so this is the way government's supposed to work, a collaboration of the business entities that are here represented, the civic entities, and government all working together. So thank you to the mayor and to the council for doing this today.
Thank you, Todd.
Good evening, everybody. Tony Legge, 5216 CNAC Drive in Kenner, and I serve as Executive Director of the Jefferson Business Council, and I know the question. We are definitely supportive of what you're doing here with this evening. You are filling a tremendous need for the citizens of this region and the businesses of this region. There's no question about that. We appreciate the approach that you've taken. You've spent a lot of time on this. I know that. I've spent a lot of time with various council members, and we certainly appreciate what you're doing, and we think this is a big step forward for Kenner and our region, and appreciate all your work on it.
Thank you, sir. Just a second. Is Naran, Mr. Naran? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, let me call up Mr. Naran first. Unless you want to yield to him, sir. I mean, you've been the person we've been speaking with, so I just wanted to hear from you. Name?
Niran Gunasekar.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know this is, same question. Is this something that your industry feels is agreeable that can be worked on by all parties in this region?
No.
Okay. I thank you for that, and like I said, but don't forget, I will continue working to make that agreeable, and we will discuss this in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Sigurd.
Thank you. Okay, sir, but I don't know who you represent. Well, wait, well, come here then. I know.
Ahmed Sadawi, 680 Sperson Lane in Kenner. I want to say that the time factor is very effective for us because we are all sufferers of massive reduction of our income.
Okay.
So this is...
we are going to continue dealing with this issue on that matter after tonight. I gave you that assurance. Trust me, it's going to happen. Thank you. Jefferson Visitor Convention Bureau, I understand. No. Jefferson Visitor Convention Bureau, yes, please, come up. Anybody else?
Yes, Terry Burkell, the Jefferson Convention and Visitors Bureau. Residence is 2114 Iowa Avenue, Kenner.
Yes, I'm very aware. Thank you, Terry. Again, through your organization and your knowledge of this legislation, do you feel that this is something that your organization will support as a compromise or a working document for the industry in this region?
Yes. On behalf of the members of the Jefferson CVB that we represent in our board, I do believe that this is acceptable because our concern is the visitor experience and having the conveniences or the options, more options for them, for the convenience of our destination. Yes, we're in agreement.
Thank you. Anybody come in from the Kenner Business Association? I'm sorry. Anybody from Kenner Business Association? Okay. The purpose of this sort of roll call was to let everybody understand who has been giving us input into this legislation to reach this compromise. This is not just us acting behind closed doors. We sit here and have conversations with all of these groups to hear their input. And that is what has helped bring us to this point that I'm encouraging all of our council members tonight to approve. Just make sure I didn't leave anybody out. Richard, you want to raise? I see Richard's eyes looking, so I'm not sure if he wants to. He does represent a group in the city of Kenner. Name, address, and group you're representing.
Thank you, Mr. Sigurd. Richard Brown. I'm president of Citizens for a Better Kenner. And this ordinance, as it stands now, after the amendments, is much improved. We like it much better. We do still have some issues with it. Those can perhaps be worked out in the future. This is a tremendous improvement, and I thank you for the amendments that were adopted tonight. They made a big difference.
Thank you. And as you've heard, we're not finished. We will be doing some other things. Okay. Well, I think that brings me to my time up to say, again, thanks to all the parties who have helped bring us here. And I hope we have put together this package, compromise legislation that we can all work and be acceptable. I'll yield the rest to other council members. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Impastato, you have the floor.
Well, first of all, with respect to to echo Councilman Segura's comments about the second phase of this, which is the taxi regulations, our position on that has been relatively clear. Councilman Segura and I, going back 6 months, more than, I guess it's been almost a year, really. We had extensive meetings with the taxi cab union, the taxi cab lawyers, a number of different taxi cab drivers, and asked the open question, please tell us what regulations in the city of Kenner you believe increase your burden and make it more difficult for you to earn your income that you so desire. Tell us what those are and give us the opportunity to amend those regulations to make it easier for you to earn a living in the city of Kenner. We made that very clear. And thankfully, Mr. Nurhan and the taxi union representative, Mr. Tiger Hammond, provided us a list of, as I recall, 10 bullet points that said these are the challenges we believe we face with Kenner's taxi cab regulatory scheme. We put an ordinance on the table going back as far back as December to address all 10 of those concerns for the cab industry, okay? To reduce those burdens, to make sure that every person can compete fairly and honestly and earn the living that they so desire. And that's what's fair, that's what's best for all of us. And unfortunately, that was taken off the table by my colleagues some months ago. But guess what? It's never totally off the table. We're going to come back to that. I'm confident of that. We have something that's not going to be too far away where we can address those concerns and make sure we keep the term level playing field is bannered around, but the reality is we can address each of those concerns and are committed to do that, because the reality is what we're here dealing with tonight and have been dealing with for the last several years on these ride-sharing regulations. It's not about Uber, it's not about Lyft, it's not about ride-sharing, it's not about taxis. It's about the citizens in the city of Kenner and the services that they feel they need, and to have the quality of life, to earn a living, to operate their businesses. And look, there's no doubt that there have been very few issues. I can't think of another one in the 3 years I've sat on the council that generated this much attendance at our council meetings. And it should, because we're dealing with people's livelihoods. That's sacred to every one of us in this room. There's no question. It doesn't matter whether you're a cab driver, a TNC driver, work for the Chamber of Commerce, or work for city government. It doesn't matter. We all do what we have to do to provide for our families, and there's very little that is more important to us than the ability to do that. So that's the paramount concern, and I know it's the concern of all 7 council members on this dais. There's no question. But with that, I'd like to thank my colleagues on the dais. I mean, there's no mystery. Everyone knows at the last meeting I was the lone person who voted against the regulations that were proposed because I felt I didn't want Kenner to be an overly burdensome regulatory system for this burgeoning progressive industry. But the reality is it doesn't matter whether that happened 2 weeks ago. What is important and what I appreciate as a citizen of the city of Kenner and as an elected official is my colleagues were willing to stay open-minded, as Councilman Carroll stated earlier, willing to reflect on this issue, willing to listen to the economic concerns, to the citizen concerns, to the interests of every person involved, and to say, let's give this another look. Let's make sure it's less important to be first, it's more important to be right. And I want to say that I'm proud to be able to say that I sit on a dais with colleagues who were willing to take that leap and say, let's get it right, even if it takes a second look at it. The reality is, we were hopeful for a number of months that the Kenner City Council was not going to be dealing with this, because this was put up at the state for the state regulatory scheme to take it over. And to do this just as 44, 45 states did. We were cautiously optimistic when the House approved it 79-12 that was going to happen. Unfortunately, when it got to Senate committee, it didn't happen. and I guess the Senate didn't feel that way. I don't know, but it definitely stonewalled there, so it came back to the city of Kenner, so now we have to do this. Maybe in the future, there will be a state system that addresses this, so we have that uniformity across all industries and all jurisdictions. But the reality is, what I believe is tonight we have an opportunity to approve something that will define the progressiveness of this community and to invite innovation and technological advancement within the city of Kenner. We have an opportunity tonight when we approve this to give one more reason for new families to want to relocate to the city of Kenner, for people to want to come to the city of Kenner, for people to want to be tourists in the city of Kenner, for people to want to do business in the city of Kenner. Because I think what's important here is this isn't just about catching a ride to and from a restaurant or to and from a bar. It's about people having access to medical treatment, as Mr. Murphy alluded to. This is a much bigger picture issue than just catching a ride. We have businesses who have come out and told us this has opened up markets for them they never had. This has allowed machine companies to have delivery of their equipment and parts at a cost-effective way that they didn't have before. We've had business, Gambino's Bakery, I'll name it right now. Their business has increased because of the ability to use Uber to deliver their goods. So this is an economic development issue that is much bigger than I think we might have even thought. Their car dealerships have contacted us and let us know there are people financing cars using this additional transportation option as the means to finance the purchase of new vehicles. So we're incentivizing purchase of new vehicles. So by government getting out of the way, reducing regulation, and making sure that services are allowed at the most cost-effective, least burdensome way possible, we have an opportunity to take a step forward for our citizens for economic development. For those reasons, I want to thank my colleagues for giving another look at this, and I certainly appreciate all of their work. I mean, the countless hours, there's no questions. Weekends, nights, you name it, have been done. And so I want to thank everyone for their continued work and ask that my colleagues join me in supporting this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wilmot, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to reiterate, Councilman Segura, thank you for what you went through just a few minutes ago, having all the different folks come up here. It kind of gives us a good idea of what's going on with the public. We got a good understanding of who's for and who's against, and we hear you. We're trying to be here, and we're trying to be fair. And I understand the taxis are not happy with what's going on to whatever extent it is. But I can tell you this, we need to keep working. We need to keep moving forward. We want to help. We need to keep that in mind for the future, and I think there's things that we can do. We need to keep working and striving to help. So that's my goal, and I want to be able to do that. And again, Councilman Impastato, thank you for your comments and bringing it together. And Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you want to chime in and you have any input on this subject, please feel free.
Yeah, I was going to give, the courtesy to the rest of the council to complete, and I'll add in.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
You finished?
Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
finished.
I'd like to just say some closing comments for the council and then we'll let Mayor Zahn speak. When I recognized the importance of these issues, I formed a special committee. I was the chairman, Councilman Segura was on a committee, and Councilman Wilmot was on a committee. We met with the various interests. We met with the TNCs, the taxis, the City of New Orleans, the business interests, everyone. And we had several meetings. That's not to say the other councilmen didn't work hard on it. Obviously, the other councilmen did. Councilman Impastato, Councilman Reyno, Councilman Carroll, as well as Councilman DeFrancis, who's not here today. But we worked with everyone, and this, in short, is a compromise. We met with all the parties. We heard all the arguments for and against. We had several meetings here. I think the last meeting we had here was 4 hours and 10 minutes. So we spent a lot of time on it, and now we have something we don't have before if this passes today. Number one, we have regulation. The TNCs were operating in the city of Kenner without regulation. Now they have regulation. Also, the city of Kenner now has an additional source of income. And last but not least, and this is important, is the safety of our citizens. We now have regulations. We have background checks. We're going to have drug tests. It's all for the safety of our citizens. So I think we did a very good job, but nothing is carved in stone. This is always subject to amendment. It's subject to change. We tried to satisfy everybody's interests here, and I think we did a pretty good job on that. And I think the fact that we've changed this up or tweaked it a little bit since the last meeting indicates that we're willing to still hear from all sides and make whatever changes we feel necessary for everyone's interests. So with that, I would turn it over to Mayor Zorn.
Got two council people yet.
Gregory Carroll.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're not on the screen. I'm sorry, Councilman.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, Mr. President. And again, I'd like to thank all of the entities involved, from the TNCs, the taxi drivers, the business organizations, our attorneys who put in countless hours, who did most of the lifting for us to supply us with the information. We just had to read it. They had to research it and all. And even for the citizens to be able to, who are at home, to be able to watch. This is how government works. Obviously, as Councilman Segura said, everybody's not happy. We even heard from the taxi cab, one of their representatives, they're not, and that's understandable. But it's also good to know that, speaking with Councilman Segura, Councilman Impastato, that we're not going to give up on this. But we're also not going to pout about it. This is where we are today, and the next move is to make it as best as we can, because I don't think any legislation from a federal level all the way down to a state and local, the first cut at it is always what you want. I think from Medicaid and all those other major stuff, it came out and people had to adjust it. It's no different for us. And I think to handle it professionally the way we did, without a whole lot of static, gave the ability for all people to understand exactly where we stood. Some things we agreed upon, some things we did not agree upon. But we are now at a position now to go forward and to be able to make it as best as we can. And it will be a contiguous things that we have to do to make it better, because 5 years ago there was no such thing as a TNC, a Lyft, or Uber. Who knows where we're going to be another couple of years from now, which are going to have to make us adjust accordingly. So as long as we're open-minded to do that, I think we're going in the right direction. I have one question for the attorney, though, as related to what Councilman Impastato said. We took the ball, then kicked the can down the street. We dealt with it. But now, since we've done that, the state has a hiatus on what they're going to do. So eventually, they're going to have to revisit this. Who knows how soon? How does that affect us as a city, what we've put into place? How will it affect us going forward?
Councilman, I wish I could give you a clear and precise and distinct answer, but until we see whatever legislation that they put forward, whether that legislation would supersede our legislation or not, I can't answer that question. But the state certainly has the ability to pass legislation which would take the regulation away from us.
So, and that was my question. It is a possibility that the state would be able to regulate something that everything that we did here today would have to fall into line with the state. Is that?
The state would have the ability, depending upon how it writes its legislation, to remove our ability to regulate this industry.
Exactly. So it could change again whenever the state decides to move on this.
That's correct.
And then that will be the law at that point. So we'll have to adjust, not only the council, not only the city, but the TNCs and the taxi. So, this is an evolving situation that we're, just sit back. There's more to come, as they say. So thank you, sir. Thanks for all your work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, Councilman Radon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Neuron, taxi cab, I have a question for you. Thanks. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying this long. You were the only one that came up and said that y'all weren't in agreement with this. Can you tell me what specifically you're not happy with as far as the taxis?
I'm not happy because the requirement for the occupation license, the health certificate that you all require from Kenner drivers. I have issues with the inspection station, the taxi inspection station, because taxis have to go twice a year to get inspected. And Uber or Lyft or ride-sharing companies just have to abide by the state brake tag. And if that's the case, then why don't you give us that chance too? We'll have a state brake tag. We pay $20. They won't check anything of your car. Everybody's fine. Public safety is good. We'll work with that.
So if we agree to work on those issues,
Right.
we as a council body agree to work on those issues,
Sure.
and amend this legislation to make it level on these 4 items, then y'all would be okay with it.
Yes, but my biggest issue is the pricing. We have no mechanism in place to match Uber's pricing because the City of New Orleans, City of Kenner, the Parish of Jefferson mandates us to charge certain fees. This is not that we cab drivers came up with these prices. They were given to us by the city or local jurisdictions to charge. So, Uber has this app and they could go down or go up. But I had to admit, the city of New Orleans did one great thing when they passed their rules and regulations to mandate Uber to match our fare, because our fare was $33 one time. It was some cab drivers who went back to the City Council of New Orleans and asked for that $36. Now today, that is a huge issue because the summertime, the traveler who comes out of Louis Armstrong Airport is tight on his budget. He's not a big spender like a convention goer or a party-hardy person. $2 makes a big difference. He would drag his luggage to the short-term parking and catch a vehicle. So that's why I'm asking to make it even. I mean, even the 33, we could go down to 33. That will have to come from New Orleans. But the extra passenger, what they charge, that's my issue.
Okay. But if we work on these 4 issues,
Right.
not talking about the rate, these 4 issues, y'all would be happier with, because the rates were always in there. So y'all would be happier with this legislation if we amend on those 4 issues.
Right. So the 4 issues, could you repeat it to me?
Occupational license,
Right.
health certificate, twice-a-year inspection, and the taxis just having to have a brake tag
Right.
instead of an inspection of the
And
vehicle.
the other big issue is the city of Kenner is going to ask us to pay $250 to work at the airport. Now, just imagine, if you are a Jefferson Parish taxi cab or Orleans Parish taxi cab, we had to pay those fees, then we got to pay the airport their fee. They are charging $200. Then top of that, we got to pay $250 to Kenner. If you add all of that, just to work the beginning of the year, we will have to come out with $600. And our business is down because we used to average 5 trips from the airport. Today, we are averaging just 3. And some days 2. Like today, I had to pull out just to be here. I stayed 2 hours at Lot C. And that's why I'm really upset at the city of New Orleans and some airport officials who come out here and claims that if Uber leaves town, because the big boy says, if you don't give me what I want, I'm leaving town. And then the city of New Orleans put a statement out saying the taxis cannot handle this business. That's really, upsetting for me.
The $250 is for the CPNC,
Right.
correct?
I'm sorry?
Your $250 is for your CPNC, correct?
The Kenner is asking?
Yes.
Yes.
The 250 is for
Right.
a certificate.
Or a fee, I don't know, how do you put it, you know?
And-
It's just to work at the airport, I'll have to pay $250 to Kenner, I'll have to pay $200 to the airport, and my local jurisdiction, because I'm not a city of Kenner cab driver, I'm a Jefferson Parish cab driver, I had to pay Jefferson Parish another $250. So that's 500 plus 200, that's
That-
$700.
I get that, but that is for a CPNC, so you have to pay that for Kenner. You have to get one for
Right.
Jefferson Parish. If you're operating in New Orleans, you have to get a CPNC for New Orleans, correct?
Right.
And that the New Orleans fee is much higher than 250, isn't it?
No, New Orleans, if you own a CPNC, for the renewal, you got to pay $150 a year.
It's not the question I'm asking you.
Right.
If you went to go buy a new CPNC,
Buy a new CPNC?
you went and got a new CPNC, you never had one before, and you went and applied for one.
They are not issuing CPNC. That's another issue. I'm thankful for you to bring in this up because the Kenner ordinance does not have a cap. Now, Kenner taxi drivers cannot go to New Orleans and drive. Why don't you make it ask Mitch Landau to open the door so I'll go and work there too?
If they were available, would they be $250? If they were available in
No, it's a closed market. So they stopped issuing CPNCs in 1976. So it's today's market value with Uber coming in, it's about $10,000, $12,000.
Okay, just wanted to get that on the record,
Sure.
just wanted to clarify that. That's all
Thank
I
you.
wanted to do. Thank you.
Eddie.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I have a question for
Ron,
Mr.
don't leave yet.
Oh, you,
well,
Can I just ask him a question?
Sure.
I mean,
I'll
if you don't mind.
address that issue.
I'm not,
right,
I'm
Okay, you're not
yielding
finished,
for a
right.
question, but I'm
Okay,
not
that's
finished.
fine.
You mind, is it okay?
No, it's fine.
Mr. Nurhan?
Yes.
You talked about the fees issue.
Right.
So I think I know the answer, but I just want to know. So are you saying the cab industry would prefer to convert to a fee system as we just approved for Uber,
The
where
50
instead of paying a licensing fee per vehicle, you start paying per trip, per ride fees? Is that what you're saying would be preferable?
No, because I went to school and I did arithmetic. I did math. And if you charge the 50 cents, we're going to pay more than $250.
Oh,
That
okay.
I agree.
Okay, so actually, the fee system is actually more advantageous to y'all as it is right now than it is to the Uber
But my
drivers.
issue is we are burdened with all these fees. How can we make a living? Because off the bat, we had to pay close to $1,000 just to be in the business. So I'm asking everybody, not only city of Kenner, even New Orleans, to reduce your fees. The airport should reduce their fees.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask.
Well, don't walk away, I have another question.
but yeah, and I still got one too, so.
Okay, so I just want you to know that I'm in the HVAC business
Right.
for 43 years, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning.
Right,
And I'm required to get a license in Kenner.
right,
I'm required to get a license in Jefferson Parish.
right.
I'm required to get a license in Orleans, in Slidell, and the list goes on. Harahan,
Right.
Gretna, all of them require us licenses. In order for me to do HVAC business throughout our region, I'm required in every city or every parish to have a license.
Yes, I agree.
So-
I don't mind paying for a license. $250? Why don't you make it $100? That's fine.
Well, you'd be surprised at what I pay for license renewals.
I know.
okay? So, but I'm not going to
I'm a
go there. I
cab
just
driver.
wanted to let you know that this is not something that just the taxis are paying. I have friends that are plumbers, electricians, building contractors, and the list goes on. There are license fees for everybody to operate businesses, and that's just the way it is.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes,
So-
so I'm not against the fees, okay? Yes, so you have to pay to play, okay? I understand that. But the problem we are having right now is, as a cab driver, your income has been reduced more than 50%. There is a reason behind that. The TNCs come and operate, they pass all their expenses to their drivers. So they just take 25% out of that, whatever the dollar TNC driver makes. And when we, who never had competition, now we have competition, and our stay at the airport, if it was 1.5 hours before, today is about 3 hours or 4 hours. And the summer months, we're going to stay there 5 hours. So I understand your point, and I'm not blaming anyone, but I'm just saying our real situation. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, and don't step down, because I'm going to yield just for a minute. I'm not finished,
Right.
but I'm going to yield.
Thank you,
Council
Councilman.
members.
Just to also clarify some numbers that you gave out. You have an issue with the $200 or $250 city says you need to operate at the airport.
Right.
That's an annual fee?
Yes.
Okay. And then you pay no other fee?
Well,
No, to operate at the airport.
airport is just $200.
Okay, but that's the airport charges you
Right.
that. City of Kenner, $250.
Right.
We don't charge you anything else to operate at the airport if you choose to do so, correct?
Right.
Okay. As you are aware with the math, if a TNC is operating at the airport, do you know what the fee is that they pay?
Yes.
$4 a pickup.
$4 to the airport, they're going to pay 50 cents to you.
That's correct.
But they have come into a business, barge into a business
Well,
without
wait.
any proper
Wait. Naran, I don't want to,
No,
because I hear, we don't want hackling from the audience, but you made a comment, and I think it's only fair. It's competition. And competition is
Ma'am,
what free enterprise is about.
You
We
talk
cannot
unless
stop
you
that.
come up to the podium.
Yes, but
Okay,
I
so
got
just
you.
bear in mind, we're trying to deal with that also. We cannot stop free enterprise, which is competition.
I'm not telling you to stop. I'm just trying to say they cannot practice unfair business practices. Now, every industry or every industry has regulations. Just because you come today, you cannot say, I want to change the regulations just for me to be.
And I think we're addressing in a few minutes to vote on what their regulations will be.
Okay.
And we have heard you, as Councilman Reno took a short list, as Councilman Spastada says, we already have a 10-bullet point list given by representatives, and I have asked them today to give me anything else that they may have so that we can go to work on those issues and resolve them for you. So we're looking anywhere from 10, 15, 20 issues as y'all present. We will work to find a way to make it work better for you. That's the promise we're giving you.
Right. So, if I agree with everything you said, I agree. The other issue is the CPNC cap. The city of New Orleans is not issuing CPNCs. The unincorporated Jefferson Parish is not issuing CPNCs. So Kenner should do the same thing because that's.
Do what, cap it or open
Cap
it up?
Cap it, please.
We'll discuss that. Thank y'all. Councilman Rayner, you wanted to finish?
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes, could you come up?
You got it.
He did?
Thank you for coming, and thank you for staying.
Yes, sir.
I have one question for Uber. ADA compliance. Do y'all have vehicles that are ADA compliant?
So, I think as it was mentioned previously, Uber is the network that transmits and arranges pickups for people who own their own vehicles. So Uber does not own a fleet, so Uber owns no vehicles.
Okay, but this legislation says that you have to have a certain percentage
Sure.
ADA compliance.
Yes.
Are y'all going to meet those requirements?
So Uber has a special assistance when a customer or an app user of Uber signs up. If they have specific disability needs, they can specify what that is. I'm only speaking on behalf of Uber, and this is truly on my own knowledge of the product. This is not, a representation.
I'm not trying to put you on the
Yeah, no
spot.
question.
I'm
I'm just
looking
trying to be-
for an answer
Sure.
that if y'all operate in the city of New Orleans, that
Yes.
y'all will meet these requirements
Absolutely.
as established in this ordinance for vehicle for hire.
Correct.
And that Uber does have the ability to do that. And I understand you own no vehicles, but I want to make sure that the number of drivers that you have, whatever that number is, that you are saying here that y'all will be able to comply with what's the requirements in this ordinance.
For all of the hails, the hails that we have that are received under the app, under Uber Assist, those are drivers that are specially trained, whose vehicles are prepared and equipped to assist folks with specific disabilities.
Okay, so again, the exact question is that you will be able to comply?
Yes. Yes.
That was my only question. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate you staying.
And if I can continue that thought, just for one clarification.
Sure. I'm not giving up the floor.
Mr. Rapier, what happened to the or amendment?
Is he all right?
The OR amendment was one of the amendments that were adopted previously, so the OR amendment is in the legislation as you're getting ready to vote on.
Okay, I'm just, because there was some discussion at the special meeting that by reconsidering, we wiped that clean.
Let's make sure that everybody is on the same page here. You all had voted to accept and/or reject certain amendments. The reconsideration took you back one vote, which was the vote of final adoption. So your ordinance that you started tonight, the proposed ordinance that you started tonight with contains all of the amendments that you all had voted on to add to it up until the final vote for final adoption. So it has, the OR amendment is in
Okay.
what you had looked at.
All right, well, thank you.
Is in the
Well, then-
ordinance that you're voting on.
Then my comment on that is, I had a very lengthy conversation, and I think Councilman Wilmot was part of it. We were on my phone, I had it on speakerphone. Councilwoman DeFrances was also there. And we spoke with, was it Uber or Lyft? Can't remember now, but it was one of them on this topic. And I thank you for bringing that again out, Councilman Reynos, because even though the language put the or, which said that the TNCs can, in effect, not comply with the percentage of handicap accessible vehicles based upon a fleet number because of the argument that they do not have a fleet. But the or said they must handle that call for a assist of whatever type, whether it be a wheelchair or a motorized. The conversation with both Mr. Giuliani and Mr. Alberg was to the effect that they can do the wheelchair, but they cannot do the electric vehicles. But in that place, they are guaranteeing, and we are still refining this because we agreed in the language of the or to give them time to refine this, is they have to provide that service somehow. And they can't do it themselves, but they are to defer that call to a taxi service who can handle it. We drilled them, if Councilman Wilmot can attest, how are you intending on doing that? And as the shortness of last meeting, when they could not answer, it is still something that, as we've said, this is a fluid thing. That is a point of contention that I or others will still be expecting the TNCs to come back with an explanation of how, when they receive a request for a ride from someone with a electrified vehicle, they cannot just say, on my app, I'm going to give them a phone number and call, and I'm finished with it. We're not going to look for that. I wish Mr. Giuliani and Mr. Alberg were here because they truly are aware that we, particularly myself, Councilman DeFrances, Councilman Wilmot, are looking for a concrete answer. Right now, they've got to handle that call. They cannot just defer it and pass it off. If they, and unfortunately, if they do pass it off, it's going to go to a taxi service that has a compliant vehicle. So good for you, I guess. But we are still drilling down on these T&Cs to satisfy that issue.
Thank you. If I can ask Johnny Damiano, is he still here? Thank you for coming and thank you for staying. I'm going to ask you the same question. Can Lyft provide the ADA compliance that is in this legislation? Whether they do it with their, however, I'm just asking, can y'all comply?
Yeah, I hate to be repetitive of what was stated by Uber, but just like Uber, Lyft doesn't actually own any vehicles or a fleet. But it is my understanding that currently they make an effort to contract with either a cab who can provide that access or someone who can provide that access when they get those calls.
Okay, so y'all will be able to meet the requirements of this vehicle for hire ordinance. That's all I'm looking for, yes or no?
Yes, sir, that's my understanding.
Okay, then that's all. I just didn't want to vote on legislation and, you know, that the people that are governed by this legislation can't comply with it, you know, especially when it comes to disabilities. So that's all I really needed to know. And I know Councilman Segura, you know, stated his point, and y'all have stated yours, that you own no vehicles. I get all of that. I just want to make sure that what y'all saying is that y'all can meet these requirements that are set in this document, in this legislation.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let me ask you something. One final word is that when we had our meetings, we discussed that with Uber and Lyft, that we thought they needed to be required or are required to comply with the ADA regulations for disabled folks. Is that correct? And you said you would work on that, and just like you contract with your drivers, the regular drivers, you can contract with vehicles and in persons to provide that service. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, we're happy to continue to work with the council on those issues.
Sure. I understand. Thank you.
That's all for me, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. President, remember that the mayor would like to speak.
Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council Chairman, and thank you, Councilman Lamont, for answering the question. I just wanted to give the courtesy to the rest of the council to speak first. Real quickly, I want to thank you all for your support. Of course, you've obviously heard the people's outcry, you've heard the business community's outcry, and most of all, you've heard our request. I appreciate everything you all have done. I think by the way I see where this vote is going tonight, we are showing the residents and all these entities that are involved that we are business friendly. As we all are interested in the progress of the Esplanade Mall, the Pavilion Shopping Center, the Kalis property across the street, as people cry out to us, we want to make sure that these developers, these real estate agents are able to say, Kenner is progressive, Kenner is going to do the things that we need done. I'm sure major retailers want to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. We see tonight that we are moving in the right direction. With that said, I appreciate the comments that have been made by Councilman Segura and others that you all are going to look to the taxi cab industry. You're going to hear what their union wants, what they're asking for, what the industry's asking for, and making an even playing field. So I appreciate that position, and that is what we've always done in the past. That is what my record has shown as a parish councilman when I dealt with this twice, and I came here and got this gift again to deal with it one more time for a third time. So as we move forward, this is something that's impressive to our business community, our residents, and also to this administration, and I'm sure to the chief of police, that we see everyone working together. This is a much better way of doing it instead of what the alternative was for me, so I appreciate the direction y'all are going in tonight. Thank you, Council Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If I can close?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Segura.
Make it quick here, but I just did want to comment on something that Councilman Carroll had asked of the city attorney relative to what happens if something with the state would occur. As we are aware, there was a bill filed in the state that was a really not good for everybody except TNCs, obviously. And then the state handled it, maybe in the Senate where it was blocked. But the point being is that that bill was not a good bill for municipalities, not good for parishes. It was not good even for the passengers, because it did not have a lot of what we put into this legislation. Safety of the passengers, the requirements that we are asking them to work under. That bill did not have that as good as it needed to be. So it died. It will come back up, but I have been in contact with legislators and committed to work with them to help put a better bill up that will be more accommodable to the safety of the passengers and to accommodate the municipalities like us who have something in place so that it does not impact us. There are a lot of communities in the state that just don't have the need for such legislation that we have hopefully will pass tonight. But they may need a state statute to address their area. So I intend to work with the legislature to write a bill, along with everybody that I've had come up here tonight who will have input, to say, let's get a good bill in the state that is good for everybody. But yeah, I want to protect our right here in the city to have our legislation and do our regulation and what needs to be done for our folks here in the city. So I will be working on that. So again, hope everybody is in favor of this bill, and Council President, I'm ready to take a vote.
Okay. Okay, motion by Councilman Segura and seconded by Councilman McClung to approve the legislation as amended. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 9B is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,250, an ordinance adopting the operating budget for the city of Kenner for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2018, and providing for related matters.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilman McClung to open the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 to open your hearing.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this matter? Hearing no one. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember McClung.
Pause 1 second. Let the crowd leave. I don't think everybody can hear us.
Okay.
If we could ask everybody who's finished with their business here at the council meeting if they could please exit the chambers so that we could proceed with our agenda this evening.
Okay. I think that's occurring. Where was I? Okay.
We're now in a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,250. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this matter, please come forward.
Seeing no one. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilman McClung to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 to close your hearing.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilman McClung to approve. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, we've received a request this evening to amend this ordinance. If I could please present, I have two amendments, please. Tonight, the first amendment would be pages 32 through 33, increased the civil service budget by $25,000 to account for a pay study.
Okay.
Move.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilman McClung to approve the amendment. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 6-0 on the amendment. The second amendment we have this evening would be pages 104 and 105, increased pay incentives budget by $125,000 to reflect final calculation of the 2% COLA and retirees' health insurance costs.
Move.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to approve the amendment. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Back to your original motion.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein to approve the ordinance as amended. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 9C is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,251, an ordinance adopting the capital budget for the city of Kenner for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2018.
Okay, motion by motion by Councilmember Impastato and seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to open the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this matter? Seeing none, motion by Councilmember Impastato and seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Motion by Councilmember Impastato and seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to approve. Council members, please vote.
Got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember.
I'll defer my opening. I don't know.
Right now, you have the floor. Oh, sorry.
On the capital budget, some of the items on that budget require funding from, or match funding or partial funding from the district accounts. And I just want to clarify on the record that those funds will be handled by a fund form, just like we do on everything else. Anytime money is dispersed out of the district council accounts, it's done by fund form. So I just want to make sure it's on the record, because we've had this conversation in meetings, but now I want to make sure that it's on the record.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, so those fund forms will be initiated by, that's okay. Those fund forms are going to be initiated by the council office or by the mayor's office. And the reason I'm asking that question, if I am looking for something done on a street in my district, the fund form originates from Public Works, okay? Then it's sent to us, we sign off on it, then it goes to Finance, and the Public Works signs off on it, Finance signs off on it, and the mayor signs off on it. I just want to make sure that that's going to be the same process. And I just use Public Works. It doesn't matter if it's recreation for Mr. Maricoli, which I'll say, hey, we'd like to get an estimate on this. He'll get an estimate. He'll send a fund form over. If we approve it and sign it, then he moves it on down the chain. I want to make sure that it's all going to be handled the same way, that it's not going to be handled any way differently than that.
I guess it's a yes and no answer. When you pass this capital budget tonight, there will be no need for a fund form, but we'll be glad to notify you where that is coming from. With a normal fund, with a normal request that a district has, it does, correct, originates in the department, goes to any district council member or an at-large for the monies that they do have, and I sign off on and approve it. So I don't know.
I'm not looking for a yes and no answer, yes and no. I'm looking for a yes answer, and what I'm looking for is...
Then I guess the answer is no.
On District 3, I'm only going to talk about District 3 because everybody else is different. So let me talk about District 3. There are two projects in District 3 that money's coming from the city capital and money's coming from the district capital or the district account, okay? One of those projects is a recreation project, okay? It's repair of the boat launch. So that would be initiated from Mr. Maricoli, and when we did that before, if we put up any district money, because it was recreation, he would actually start the fund form, send it to us, we would identify the account that we wanted to come out of, and then it would go on. I'm committing the dollars, so I don't want you, I'm on the record, I'm committing the dollars. I just want it done by fund form the way it's been done the 5 years that I've sat on this council. And the second project is a road project on Vintage. Again, that would come from our Public Works Department. They would send a fund form. We would identify the account that we want to use that, for those funds, and we would sign it. I'm committing to you to sign it. That's not the issue. I just would like it done by fund form. So, Mr. Mayor, if you're acceptable with that, then I'm okay. I'm going to vote in favor of this budget. But this capital budget. I just want to make sure and clarify. And we did this prior to this meeting. We talked about it, and y'all said, yeah, that's okay. So I just didn't want you to change your mind. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, so I guess the answer is no. I was trying to give you a yes and no response, but the answer would be no, because when you pass this capital budget, you're passing a budget that no fund form would be needed. If everyone's in agreement that everyone's interested in the boat launch, because that is a citywide issue, and I believe everyone has committed to some funding or just from your funding, we are committing that we're going to do the fund form in this capital budget. There would be no fund form needed. If has prior history with the city of Kenner, when something's included in the capital budget, there's a fund form needed? I'm asking a question now.
I don't remember in the capital budget.
Okay, so
Now,
I guess,
I'm going by memory.
right.
I don't remember in the 5 years that I've served here where it's been in the capital budget that, hey, we're going to take money from a district account
Well, I guess,
for a citywide project, because the boat launch is a citywide project, which I agreed to. You only asked for, in this budget, you only asked for $50,000. I agreed to double up and do $100,000. I'm just asking that it can be done by fund form. I don't see why it can't be done by fund form. I don't know why the answer would be no, because, why can't we just issue a fund form? I mean,
Well, I just think it's redundant office work because we're passing it in the capital budget. In my 6 years on the city council, I do believe that if something was done like this, that it was already handled in the capital budget, you're giving the administration the ability, as you pass it tonight, to enact a project that does not require a fund form. I guess, Councilman, I got to ask, why is the necessity of a fund form important when we notify you and you're notifying us that you're approving the money to be taken out? The fund
Because
form
I have-
is redundant.
because I have different accounts. So I wanted to make sure that it's drawn from the oldest account.
Well, we could amend this tonight and tell us what account you want it to come from.
I don't have that information in front of me.
I guess we should have handled that in the budget hearings. I mean, that's why we opened this budget up to budget hearings to discuss this, and now this is.
We did, and we discussed it in your conference room. And
In my conference room, I said there'd be no fund form needed for anything in the capital budget. If you have we were talking about two different things. You were talking about a cell phone tower that you have the luxury of enjoying in District 3, and Councilman Carroll has. I was under the impression you were talking about that account if you wanted to use something for it. It may have been, obviously it was miscommunication by me, by you, I don't know. But I have other people that were in that meeting that would probably disagree. But I just don't want to get into a discussion on the boat launch, on how we're going to fund it if it's already included in the capital budget. There's not a fund form needed.
so you won't allow me to pick the accounts that,
And I didn't say, I tried to give you a yes or no answer, and you weren't happy with that. So if I just asked you, amend the budget and give us an account, and we'll do that tonight. I never said I wouldn't allow you to do anything.
so can we amend it to require a fund form?
What would be the need for a fund form in the
To
capital budget?
give you an
when you're
account number,
approving it?
which I don't have at my disposal right now.
Okay, I think I would just say since May until tonight, we've had ample time to get that fund form, to get that account number and put that in tonight. I don't want to break the history that's been here in the city of Kenner, that no fund form would be needed for a capital project that's being handled in one district that happens to be a citywide district that we're getting the approval for tonight.
It's
In
not
the
coming
budget.
out of citywide capital, it's coming out of district funds.
Okay. So I guess in all, my answer would be, and I was trying to be polite, that my answer was yes and no, trying to answer you like that. I'm going to say to the council, there's no need for a fund form on any city project that's included in this budget that we need to move forward with. If you tell me the account number, you can verbally tell me that anytime, and we will be glad to take it out that account.
Okay, so verbally, you telling me that I can give you an account number tomorrow or Monday?
Well, we have to get the money from you because
Right.
you're putting the money up, absolutely. And if that was misunderstood, I mean, I apologize for that.
That's what I want to clarify. That's what I want to
needed a-
clarify, where that money's coming from.
Yeah, I was just trying to put it in black and white for you with amending it tonight. If you verbally tell me where it's coming from, that's fine. We just
Okay.
don't need a fund form for it.
Okay, that's
All right,
fine.
that's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Back to your original motion. Is there any other discussion? Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 9D is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance. That's okay.
Well, Mayor Son, you have the floor.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank the whole council for passing the operating and the capital budget. Again, it shows that we're working together to get this done, and we just worked that out with District 3, so we want to move forward and keep on doing these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 9D is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,257, an ordinance amending the 2016-2017 operating budget to reallocate unused funds from the council office budget to the council chamber upgrade project account. Mr. Chairman, we've received a request to remove this item this evening.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Impastato, second by Councilmember Klein to remove the item. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 6-0. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution temporarily suspending Council Rule Number 11 of the Rules of Organization, Business Order, and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner and rescheduling the Kenner City Council agenda deadline to Friday, June 30th, 2017 at noon for the council meeting of July 6, 2017.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Klein, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot.
Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 13B is a resolution appointing a council vice president effective July 1st, 2017. Mr. Chairman, we've received a request for a one-meeting deferral.
Okay.
Motion by Councilmember Reyno, second by Councilmember Impastato for a one-meeting deferral. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 13C is a resolution appointing a council president effective July 1st, 2017. We've also received a request for a one-meeting deferral. Motion by Councilmember Reyno, second by Councilmember Impastato for a one-meeting deferral. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,252, an ordinance authorizing the purchase and installation of a high-definition jail surveillance system in the amount of $37,895 utilizing the State of Louisiana contract number 4400011241 with LA Tech LLC for the Kenner Police Department.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Impastato. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,253, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Barrier Construction Company, LLC, received April 11, 2017 by the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development in the amount of $695,577.88 for the Chateau Boulevard resurfacing, state project number H.011007, Federal Aid Project Number H.011007, Kenner Public Works Number 2014-007-RB.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Klein, seconded by Councilmember Impastato. I would just like to say that this is to resurface Chateau Boulevard, and this project will go forward soon. So I would ask my fellow council members to please vote for this. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,254. An ordinance ratifying the proposal from Berkeley Insurance Company with AM Best rating of A+ Superior 15 for commercial package liability insurance for the period of July 1st, 2017 through July 1st of 2018.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Segura. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 12,255. An ordinance ratifying the proposal from Safety National Casualty Company with an AM Best rating of an excellent for excess workers' compensation insurance for the period of July 1st, 2017 through July 1st, 2018.
Motion by Councilmember Klein, seconded by Councilmember Carroll. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15E is summary ordinance number 12,256. An ordinance authorizing repairs to Case 321E Loader Unit 2004 by Lee Tractor Company, an authorized dealer in the amount of $17,594.73 for the Department of Fleet Management.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Klein. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15F is a resolution approving change order number 1 to the contract with Hamps Construction LLC dated October 20th, 2016 regarding the City of Kenner Building D stair enclosures to increase contract time by 28 calendar days, and for a net decrease of $26,000 to the contract amount, resulting in a total contract amount of $86,600.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15G is summary ordinance number 12,243. An ordinance authorizing the administration to utilize the existing state contract with Interstate Electronic Systems for the installation of equipment to upgrade the voting system presently in the council chambers in an amount not to exceed $120,000.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Raynor.
Mr.
Council
Chairman,
members, please vote.
we received a request this evening to amend the item to reflect a decrease to $76,000, please.
Move.
Second. Council members, please vote.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, second by Councilmember
It doesn't matter.
You have,
No, that's fine. We'll vote on the amendment.
Impastato to amend.
That's fine.
Council members, please vote on the
Wait.
amendment.
Aye.
aye.
Motion passes 6-0 to amend. Back to your original motion, which was Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Klein. For your original motion, council members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 for approval. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance amending
I'm
ordinance
sorry.
My
number.
request to speak.
I'm sorry. Councilman Impastato, you can speak.
Can we please just, I want to at least have just some discussion on that if we can.
Sure.
I had my request to speak.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks. Mr. Sprague, can you come forward? This was an issue of discussion, this item over the last couple of meetings. The original pricing we got was for $120,000 to replace all of the equipment here, the voting system, the monitor system, the speaker system, and everything. Mr. Sprague, for those who are here, you're the IT director for us for the city of Kenner.
Yes, sir.
And what is the problem that we were having that necessitated this purchase?
The system is aging, and several components on it are starting to fail. Replacements are no longer available on it. So when we went out for bid on it, we were looking to repair the system as it stood. After the last meeting and several meetings we've had with the company, we've redesigned several things in the system to where we won't have the touchscreen monitors up on the dais anymore. It'll be a button control block, which is much less expensive, and subsequently that allowed us to remove some of the control equipment in the back end that controlled all these touchscreens.
Okay. So we'll still have a speaker queue and
We'll
everything?
still have all the same functionality you have. No functionality will be lost, other than the touchscreens. A video feed has been added to the system for each seat that will allow us to put display monitors, which are much less expensive there, and save a considerable amount of money on the project.
Well, I want to thank you, Jay, because, I mean, you kind of took the ball and ran with this and really, I know you went through 3 or 4 different versions with them to cut things out, get them to amend it, and, I mean, save the city roughly $50,000 in the process. So I'm very appreciative of that effort. And also, by going with this system, by piggybacking on the state contract, is that a benefit to the city of Kenner?
It is a benefit to the city of Kenner, both in cost and in time-wise. It would allow us to replace it and get y'all back fully operational in a much quicker manner.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
If I may,
Okay, Councilman
I make sure I didn't not hear this correctly. The function of pressing a button to request to speak, will that be there or not be there?
It'll be there will be a button block on your desk in the front, and it will have the button to enter the queue, the button to vote yea and nay, request to speak, all of that.
Okay.
All the same functionality will be maintained, but it'll be buttons that do not become obsolete or go out of date. It'll be a much simpler operation and allow.
So in other words, Councilman Impostata will be known to, he wants to talk, so he can get his discussion in earlier.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure y'all want that?
Council Reynold? No? Councilman Carroll?
No.
No?
Oh, no water.
Madam Clerk, how about that? Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance amending ordinance number 11,274 to correct an erroneous bid number and an award to FMF Group LLC. Item 16B is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Adorama to furnish and install equipment for KTV in the amount of $13,436.98 in accordance with the telephone bid number T172505 for the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. Item 16C is an ordinance approving the lease of a 25-square-foot portion of the Veterans Memorial Boulevard right-of-way located at the intersection of Veterans Memorial Boulevard and Illinois Avenue, Highway Park Subdivision, Kenner, Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, which said property is owned by the city of Kenner. Item 16D is an ordinance approving a conditional application for a place of worship located on Lot Y-1-H-4B, Square 37, Driftwood Park Subdivision, Kenner, Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, which property is zoned C2. Item 16E is an amendment to ordinance number 11,059, Stone Interiors, New Orleans, Planned Unit Development, previously adopted March 17, 2016, in accordance with the Site Plan, Building Elevation Plan, and Landscape Plan dated April 7, 2017, performed by Caserta Architects, located on Lot L1, Oakland Plantation Subdivision, Kenner, Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. Item 16F is a special hiring ordinance to allow Michael T. Wetzel and Wendy K. Foss to be department heads and maintain a residence outside the city of Kenner as allowed under Kenner's Home Rule Charter, Section 4.33. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Okay, Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this is, I forgot to address this in the beginning of the meeting as it relates to asking for prayers, but I'd like to take the opportunity now. Ms. Darlene Soniak Turnbull is the principal at Washington Elementary School in South Kenner. And also her uncle, Mr. Gus Soniak, is a longtime 40 years recreation employee. Ms. Turnbull is ill, and she's in the hospital. And I ask that everybody keep Ms. Turnbull and her family in your prayers and your family's prayers. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Councilman Segura.
Yes, and thank you for that reminding of what should have been said at the beginning. But I also failed to, just at the beginning, mention the death of a longtime city employee, Mr. David Driscoll, who passed away, and his services will be this Saturday. David worked here for a long time, and I know a lot of people don't seem to remember that because I guess they weren't here when he did work here. But David was a really nice guy and would work well for the city and did a great job. So want to have his family in our prayers. Thank you.
Okay. I'd just like to give everyone an update on the pavilion and the repairs and the code violations ahead. I'm happy to convey that the repairs are under the way. The soffit repairs are almost finished. There's a trash container now for any trash. The trash in the theater or from the theater has been removed. Exposed wiring has been repaired. They expect the repairs to be done or completed in the next 10 days. There's going to be a new light pole installed, and it's under new real estate company. Sid Bullard of Absolute Real Estate is now in the process of trying to rent the vacant spaces. So we have some improvements to the pavilion, and hopefully they'll rent the space, and we'll have that back into commerce. So I want to thank the mayor's office and the code enforcement, as well as my other councilmen, for helping us get these things done, and hopefully we'll get those spaces leased out.
One more, if I can, I did forget mine.
Yes.
goes. I would also like to make a comment that to the dedication of Councilman Impostata to sit here through this lengthy meeting, and maybe not over yet, but he is probably missing his daughter's dance recital, and I feel sorry for you.
It's hard to wipe the tears away. Hold the tears.
Okay. Okay, next.
Item 18 is new business. Item 18A, at the request of Councilmember Reno, an executive session to discuss the following litigation matter: George Bodie, Adam Campo, Gerald Dillenkoffer, Wendy Foles, Mary Sharon Howland, Kenneth Maricoli, Teresa Nevels, Stephen M. Pettit Jr., Johnny Sullivan, Ronnie Vitalero, Richard Walther, and Mike Wetzel versus the City of Kenner, Ben Zahn in his official capacity as Mayor of the City of Kenner, Michael J. Glazer in his official capacity as Chief of Police of the City of Kenner.
I'm sorry, did you say versus the City of Kenner and Mayor Ben Zahn?
I'm sorry, I said Richard Walther and Mike Wetzel versus the City of Kenner, Ben Zahn in his official capacity as Mayor of the City of Kenner, Michael J. Glazer in his official capacity as Chief of Police of the City of Kenner.
All right, so the mayor and the police chief are apparently defendants in the lawsuit.
I would like to make a motion to defer
Okay.
for one meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Reno and a second by Councilmember Carroll for a one-meeting deferral. Any discussion on the deferral?
I just curious, I mean, you put this on kind of urgently to have it discussed tonight, but now you want to defer. Is there a particular reason?
Do y'all want to go into executive session? I've had
No.
people that said that they would like to defer it for one meeting.
I don't, you never talked to me about it, so either way, that's why I'm questioning.
Councilwoman DeFrances is not here, and, you know, so we just wanted to defer it for
Oh,
one
so
meeting.
because she asked for the deferral, this is what it's for?
No, she didn't ask for the deferral.
Okay.
One of the other sitting council members up here asked for deferral.
Okay.
So we have a motion
Any more
and a second.
discussion on the deferral tonight? Council members, please vote for deferral.
Aye.
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 Aye, but
Motion passes 6-0 for a one-meeting deferral. Item 19 is unfinished business and motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Okay, we have a list of people. I don't know if they were for the TNCs and the taxi interests or not, but I'm going to go ahead and list them one by one. And I'm not sure how you pronounce this, Saadawi. Is he here? No. Al Morella?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 45 years. About a year and a half ago, I brought to the council that the bridge that crosses Canal 7 by East Loyola and Joe Yanni in front of my house was in need of safety upgrades, particularly extended rail and the barricades on the four corners of that bridge. Well, today, first I want to commend the council and Councilman Impostado for these upgrades, because today, those upgrades, those safety upgrades, saved the vehicle from going in that canal and possibly a gentleman losing his life. One vehicle, he veered off of Joe Yanni. He was headed west. I heard a crash. I went outside to see what was going on. Pickup truck done crashed right into that corner. And that extension of that railing is the only thing that kept him from going in that canal and possibly losing his life. So I want to commend the council for appropriating the money and Councilman Impostado for getting those improvements done on that bridge. Now, the second thing I want to talk about, there was 2 bills in Baton Rouge that was killed, and it's going to affect every voter in Jefferson Parish and every voter in the city of Kenner. And it's imperative that whenever we have municipal elections, particularly next year, that this 48,000 plus, whatever we have in Kenner now, get out there and vote, because these 2 bills that was killed, one of them was Bill 351. This bill was to correct an error that was in a law that was in the form of a referendum back in '98 that the voters of Louisiana passed, barring convicted felons from holding office in the state of Louisiana for 15 years. The only problem was there was a loophole that the voters were not aware of. And that loophole was challenged back in 2015 by a convicted felon who was off probation, did his time, and decided to run for office again. And he was told he couldn't. He got him a lawyer. The loophole was that if their probation period was over, they could run for office. Now the whole law has been overturned. A bill was introduced to correct this flaw, and it got shot down. So the only way now, the only recourse the voters have is to get out to the polls and avoid convicted felons from being voted into office. The second bill that was killed was the one by Representative Paul Hollis to reduce the requirements for recalls in the state. So the only recourse, once again, I urge the voters to get out and cast your vote to avoid, not only vote, but know something about the background on the people that are running for public office. That way you can counteract this. And one more thing in closing. I'm kind of surprised once again on this vehicle for hire issue. Not one person, not one representative from any cab company was down here tonight or at the last meeting. Not one. Now, I don't know how many cab companies we got left around here in this area. I know we got Service Cab. I think we still got Metric Cab. And then maybe there's an American Eagle, and maybe there's another one. I'm not sure how many we have left. But you would think that an issue as important as this, that you would see some representative from one of these cab companies, maybe one or two of them, down here tonight and at the last meeting to have something to say about this. But no, all you saw was their cab drivers. As far as I'm concerned, their so-called leadership, through those guys, left them to stand on their own. Anybody got any comments, any questions?
I do. I want to thank you, Mr. Morella, for giving us the kudos on the bridge issue, but I want to make sure credit is given to the appropriate people. That those repairs were able to be made. You brought it to our attention, and if you remember, Mr. Gonzalez, who was the Public Works Director,
right?
We went out there. He and I went out there. We looked at it. We got the engineers out there to identify where there was a problem. And actually, at that time, because that bridge is under the jurisdiction of the Jefferson Parish government, we had to go to the Jefferson Parish councilman at the time to get his assistance for both financially and logistically to make sure we had the right departments. And that person is our now mayor, Mayor Zahn. So I want to thank him because we worked in connection with him. And again, it goes back to something Mayor Zahn has said repeatedly, the relationship between our city government and that parish councilman is so important and so critical. And certainly the relationship that I feel I had with him in that endeavor is what got that solution done, and sounds like saved a life. So thanks for pointing that out to us and letting us know. Thank you.
They got their meeting Wednesday, Councilman. It's just so happened our meeting is before theirs. So they'll get their due come Wednesday morning. Okay. Let's see. There was and one other thing too. I got a few minutes left to say this. We had a representative from the city of Kenner come out and assess the damage to that railing, and they're going to get on right away to make the repairs from what he told me. So I want to mention that too. Okay? Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morello. Mr. Gregg?
My name is Greg Taft. I live at 3720 West Loyola Drive here in Kenner. I got a question for Councilman Klein. The committee meeting that we had regarding the dates for the boats, the parking boat issue. I haven't received anything or heard anything of what dates were planned and where they were going to be planned, because there's quite a few people that want to attend all of those meetings.
Yes, we're in the process of scheduling those, and when we do, we'll let you know.
Okay, you know about how...
We're going to notify everybody.
Huh?
We're going to notify everybody.
Okay, but you have a time frame that you might have that together, or?
If I can, Councilman Klein is chairman. My office, in conjunction with his, have been contacting every civic association and trying to work out with them a date of their meeting so that we can attend and start through that. At this time, I only know of one civic association that has come back and offered us to come to their meeting, and that is the University City Civic Association. And I don't recall the date, but I believe it's maybe the 21st, 2nd or something of this month. So we're still working on a detail to get there to them, because I think I just got that information today, and I haven't conveyed it to the other two gentlemen yet of that night. And then there's a time issue, because I had a conflict from 6:30 to 7:30. So if we can get there, say about 8 o'clock, and still make their meeting, then we'll publish that'll be the one we go to.
That'd be great. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and it's just an observation of the committee, because, as a group of the boat owners, trailer owners, and recreational vehicle owners, we had dealt a lot with Councilman Impastato and Councilwoman DeFrancis, and they had formulated from our meetings what we would like, what we'd have to give up, et cetera, to try to make this issue work. And my question there is, has this committee got that information from them? Because that was direct input from our group.
We're going to get input from everybody.
No, we did get that information. As you are aware, Councilwoman DeFrances made that committee meeting that we had, our first one, which was intended for us to put a schedule together, but she attended and passed out the drafts of what she had. Councilman Impastato may have been involved in.
There was a third one she did not pass out, and Councilman Impastato has that. It's where we asked for the property, perpetuity to the property, to anybody that's within that boundary where they can't get anything in the back.
That was circulated.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because we had discussed that with,
that was circulated.
I saw that.
So that did circulate? Okay.
Can I chime in here? Can we ask the mayor and the administration to put links to those 3 proposed amendments? I know we've done that in District 3. Our email that just went out, we do a monthly e-newsletter, And on that e-newsletter, they can click on, and we do it through the web page for District 3 on the city's website. So maybe if the city could put it either on each council's website where somebody can just go on and click in and then you can read it.
Well, if I know where it's at, I can probably go out there and find it, and then I can disperse it. I mean,
Okay, but I mean, you're not in my district, so I don't know how the administration wants to handle it. I'm just telling you how District 3 handled it. That's what we did. So we put a link
oh, I got you.
for the District 3 residents that get our email, our monthly e-newsletter, and they just clicked on it and they said, oh, I read all 3 of them. I'm in favor of this one. I don't like that one or whatever, and they got to look at it. So
Yeah.
Yes,
And
excuse
then
me.
the
Yes.
last thing I want to bring up
sir.
is the sweeps that's been taking place. There's a lot of people who are commenting favorably for those sweeps. You know, when you go on social media, you start finding out that someone does not want to rat out their neighbor. It just doesn't want to happen. Even though they don't like it, you know, they kind of, well, I don't want to cause trouble. And in some cases, you got, you know, someone that doesn't want to get in a fist fight with the other neighbor. So the sweeps, I just want to say that people are favorable to them because we do need to clean up the blight, and that looks like a good, effective way to, you know, spend one day or one morning, whatever it is, and kind of hit the area and get it done, and then I think it's going to bring out good things for Kenner in the long run, because then people's going to take pride in their homes and take pride in their neighborhoods. But anyway, that's all I have to say. I know Impostado has to go to a deal,
And sir, if I can, no offense by this comment, but just to show you how that works. As you just said, neighbors don't like ratting out neighbors. That's the same comments that I get, and I hope others have seen when we discuss this issue that you are here initially to talk about. We get neighbors who do tell us they're not happy with what's going on.
I understand that, and I have to tell you, in talking to a lot of people, the issue starts drilling down. If you really start drilling it down, it's coming to where the blight is a trailer or a boat, and on it is trash. So what people are complaining about is not so much that the boat is being kept or if it's neat in the yard, but it's I call it the bad neighbor. The bad neighbor doesn't care. So what do? They park either a boat, trailer, or even their cars, anywhere they want to park them. They're even on their front yards. I mean, when you go and you see 5 cars, 3 of them is in the yard itself. And so the boat has got the bad rap mainly because of the blight, because they exceeded onto the sidewalk, which means they blocked it. Code already said you couldn't do that even before UDC was passed. But a bad neighbor, they're going to cross it. The good people like myself, I mean, I made sure my boat did not go beyond that sidewalk. I made sure of it. When I bought my boat, I took the measurements, and because my house got raised, and I knew I had to work within a framework. So, and I think a lot of people were just mad because people that did have access to the back, they still wanted them in the front because they were just lazy. People that, like me, that has them in the front, if I had a way to put mine in the back, trust me, it'd be in my backyard, because then I could build something over it and, you know, protect it from the sun and everything else. So I think, you know, it's when you really drill down what the real issue comes down to is, and I don't want to go after code enforcement, because I know that they went on the premise of, you know, when a neighbor rats out another neighbor, and then they go and they take care of it right away. But people got tired, I guess, of seeing someone being abusive and not caring for the neighbor. And so now I'm in a bad rap because I got thrown into the whole bucket.
Well, I just hope that you'll appreciate from the lengthy discussion we had earlier, our intent to reach compromises as
No,
hard as
I
they may be.
understand that, and I think that a lot of people, it's just that it's been going on for so long. And remember, I told the council one time before, I also have another reason for having this passed right away, because I want to extend my driveway so that I take my truck off the street.
Your time is up now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, thank y'all, and y'all have a great evening.
Councilman Reyno, we'll make sure that that is posted on the city website, and that will provide a link to each of the council members, so you can share it with
And
your
I
constituents.
agree with Councilman Reyno's putting it up there, but if there can be some other disclaimer or information that says this is not the only thing to be considered. We are still working on ideas, and I don't want the public to maybe think that this is all that's being considered.
Right, it's what's being proposed right now.
We'll word that carefully.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Miss Terry Burkle. She left, okay. Miss Moya, M-O-Y-A. Okay, Robin, looks like A-B. I can't understand the last, but is Miss Robin here? No. Tony Leggie's gone. Mr. Richard Brown, he's here. Okay, thank you. Miss Stacy. Yeah. Okay. Miss Donna Reyno.
She's not here.
She's not here, okay. Mr. Stephen Pettit.
My name is Stephen Pettit. I live at 4816 David Drive, and I'm here to address some issues that come up, some misconceptions, some rumors, and things that I want to address before they get out of hand, because I think they could possibly lead to some pretty bad things in Kenner. Me and 10 other people, filed a lawsuit last week that was just brought up. And the lawsuit is because the 11 of us feel like we have lost some rights that the United States Constitution and the state constitution of Louisiana grant us. And we feel like good government starts first and foremost with constitutional government. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and that's where it all starts. And the appropriate way for people who have grievances is to file lawsuits through the courts. We don't duel anymore. We don't do that stuff. It is the right thing to do when a person has a grievance, especially a grievance as serious as their First Amendment rights and their rights to due process. It has been alleged that this is somehow all concocted by Mayor Zahn. And I am here to set the record absolutely straight that it is not done by Mayor Zahn. If anybody needs to demand that there is a ringleader in all this, it's an inappropriate term, but it is me. So that's it. The day I came in here and I found out about this, I immediately started researching it. I immediately started discussing it. And over the course of the year and a half that I've been here, it's been discussed between me and many people multiple times. And recent things, recent activities, recent issues made us decide that this is the right time to file the lawsuit. So we did exactly what a citizen is supposed to do when they feel like their rights have been trespassed upon. We sued the councilman, we sued the city, the mayor, and the police chief, because that's who we believe the right defendants are. It's in no way there's no way mastermind by anybody except us. Now, Councilman Reyno, in The Advocate, you were quoted as calling our lawsuit a stunt. Am I correct?
Mr. Pettit, I'm not going to comment.
It's a very simple question, sir.
I'm not going to comment on
Did
that.
you call it a stunt?
You read the article.
Okay. The article said you did. So I'm going to assume that by your lack of an answer, the article is accurate. It is in no way a stunt for people who feel aggrieved of their rights to address them through the proper courts. And it's actually kind of funny, and dare I say kind of hypocritical, that you would call it a stunt when just yesterday you filed suit against Mayor Zahn because you felt that your rights had been aggrieved. So is this a stunt, or is it the right thing to do?
No, sir, we have a charter. This city is governed by a charter, okay? And that charter is a vote of the people, okay? So the people said that they wanted an apolitical workforce. It's really clear.
It is?
And that was done in a 2012 presidential election that, by the way, on that ballot was also the Crescent City connection tolls. If you look with the Secretary of State, you'll find that that's one of the largest turnouts of voters in an election in recent time, okay? Not the largest, but one of the largest, okay? 70% of the people said that they wanted an apolitical workforce. That's not me. That's the people speaking to us. We are a city governed by a home rule charter, which is voted on by the people. So to me, it's crystal clear that the people want this. So are we a government of the people, by the people, for the people? Or we are a government by some other means? I don't know. That's a question that everybody's going to have to answer. But the bottom line is, I believe that the people say, this is how we want our city governed. These are the rules that we want this city governed by, okay? And how do we go against the people? So this is not a lawsuit against the mayor or the police chief or anybody. This is a suit against the people of this city that said that they wanted an apolitical workforce. So basically, we're suing the people.
You don't get to characterize my lawsuit. My lawsuit is not against the people. My lawsuit is against the charter amendment, which I believe is unconstitutional by both the federal, United States, and the state constitution. So you don't get to change the narrative in this issue, okay? I don't mean to be disrespectful and insult you, but the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of our land. It overrules our city charter. It's very, very clear, and I don't mean to be insulting because I hope you know that. And I hope you know that the state constitution overrules our city charter. And I'm not saying the people's votes don't matter, but what I'm saying is the Constitution governs this. So our lawsuit is not against the people. You're not going to dictate that and try to make the narrative that we are somehow insulting the people. We are simply doing what we believe the Constitution gives us. Okay, so that's it. You don't get to narrate, and you don't get to define my lawsuit. Okay. My question was, is your lawsuit a stunt?
Mine's not a stunt.
Is my lawsuit a stunt?
I don't know.
Is it a stunt? You said it. It's a yes or no answer, sir.
No.
It's not a stunt.
It's not.
Thank you. Okay.
It's not, no. I didn't say it's not a stunt. I just said, no, I'm not answering that question.
Well, I got time to wait. You want to formulate an answer? I'd like an answer. You're my councilman. I want an answer. Yes or no, is it a stunt?
Did you read the article?
Yes or no.
Did you read the article,
Is it a stunt? You answer my question first. I ask the question, then I will answer yours.
I'm not answering your question. I've already answered it.
Okay.
Mr. Pettit, why don't you move on to something else? It's obvious he's not going to answer that.
All right, appreciate it, sir.
The
second-
Time's up now, unless you got something else to say.
Excuse me, I'm going to give him my time
Okay, that's fine.
Second issue that I want to bring up is the assertion that somehow there is some coordinated attack masterminded by the mayor against you, Councilman Reno. And I point to a letter that you sent out to all your district residents where you've said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you were the victim of petty politics. Do you believe that you're the victim of petty politics?
What I spoke in that letter, the letter speaks for itself.
Okay, so you're not going to answer my question.
The letter speaks for itself.
I can't hear you. Can you speak into the microphone?
The letter speaks for itself.
Okay.
And I thought we had a council rule on here about people attacking.
I'm not attacking
you know,
councilmen. I'm asking you,
I
you're
mean,
my councilman. You're my councilman. I'm asking you questions respectfully. I just want answers. That's it. We, the people that are going to hopefully donate their time, we believe that if you're a victim of anything, that you are simply a victim of your own actions, the actions of your wife, and your inactions pertaining to those, because last council meeting, or maybe the one before, I watched a man come up here and ask you point blank to leave his family alone, and you refused to answer him. Do you think that's okay for you to not answer somebody who's pleading for peace with his family?
And I never did attack his family
I
at all.
didn't ask you if you attacked his family. He asked you to leave his family alone.
And I haven't
you
done
would-
anything to his family. I answered the question.
No, okay, all right. I want to make sure that everybody is clear that this is not some new issue that has arisen since the mayor has been elected. I will point back to when Councilman Segura was the acting mayor at the time, and he had to take the drastic step of disallowing you to talk to directors or communicate with directors. He had to limit his delegates, which the charter says you can speak to the city through the mayor or his delegates. He had to limit them to the CAO and the deputy CAO at the time. This is not a new issue between you and the directors. This has been going for a long time. And almost immediately, when Mayor Zahn took office, he lifted that restriction against a lot of people's better judgment. But he did. And since that time, we have already approached where one very high-ranking city employee, unclassified director, city attorney, the city attorney, feels that she cannot do her job because of your actions and your inaction and your wife's attack of her and her family. So I'm going to ask the question that you didn't answer last time, and it's a very simple question. Do you agree with your wife's assessment of the city attorney and her family?
That's our decision.
I didn't ask that. I asked, do you, sir, agree with your wife's assertions as they apply to the city attorney and her family?
I have no problems with the city attorney.
That is
Never
not-
had any problems.
That is not my question. My question is, do you agree with her assertions? Is that a no? You're shaking your head, but I can't hear what you're saying.
I'm not answering the question.
Okay. There are many people, let me know when my 3 minutes is up. There are many people, okay. Thank you. There are many people, and a lot of them are standing right here, that are very uncomfortable, and I'll say it, they are afraid of dealing with you and your wife. Your wife is currently under investigation by the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office for battery on the son of the mayor. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I know she is under investigation right now for battery on the son of the mayor. We just listened to your wife, who's gone now, in the back, walk by me and another director and whisper something to the effect of setup. Now, we don't know what that is, but it was absolutely unsolicited. Then one of your ex-wives, and I don't want to mention her name, was here, and your wife decided it was a good idea to walk up and call her an adulterer. Now, when you put those things together, when you put it together with it, and it's a fact that your wife has posted on various social media, specifically Facebook, that Mary Sharon Howland is on her agenda. I don't know any other way to take putting somebody on your agenda, but as a threat, okay? Considering the ongoing district attorney's office thing, considering the fact that she'd come into this council chamber and instigate people, your ex-wife, who was here, would say to that lady on Facebook, by initials, we all know MSH means Mary Sharon Howland, do it. Do you think it's reasonable that people would be afraid?
I have no comment for what you said, because I don't know.
Councilman, I'd like an
if
answer.
Anything that you're saying is accurate or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's accurate.
Well, you say so.
Do you not know that your wife is under investigation by the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office?
I know there were charges filed against my wife in the city of Kenner, and they didn't find anything.
Humor me and assume that what I'm saying is true. Would it be reasonable that
Mr.
people?
Pettit, I'm not going to respond to any more of your comments.
Okay.
So you can sit up there and do your 3 minutes.
I
do
don't
the
have
next
date night.
person's
I got
3
all night.
minutes. Do the next person's 3 minutes. I'm not responding to you any further.
Yes, sir. So I'll keep going and I'll ask the questions and you cannot answer. Not only do we collectively believe that you are a victim of your own actions and not of anything else, you are a victim of the responses. And we believe that not only do we need to protect ourselves, but we also need to protect our employees. Because I'm going to go back to some things that have happened over the last year and a half that I think is very telling of why we are so afraid not only of ourselves or for ourselves, but for our employees. I want to take you back to the election for mayor. There was an issue where your wife, in a car with, I believe, Keith Reno stickers or magnets on the side, began to follow a code enforcement officer who was in uniform in his city truck. And I believe she videotaped it and turned that videotape over to actually, I think it was Mr. Quigley. And he became so afraid that he wouldn't stop, and he called, and we told him to come back to City Hall. Before he made it back to City Hall, I am assuming your wife called you because you drove and cut the man off in your white A&H van and blocked him in. And that man was detained by you until you called Councilman Segura, and you called Mr. Quigley, and I arrived with Mr. Quigley, and you said, he's not leaving till we get to the bottom of this. You cut the man off, the equivalent of a police felony stop, and you and your wife blocked him in and would not allow him to leave till you believed it was time to let him go. Do you see how we can fear for the safety of our employees?
Mr. Pettit, you're lying.
I'm lying.
Yes, sir. I have a video that proves otherwise.
Okay. I'd like to see it. I'll ask you to produce it. There was another incident where...
Mr. Pettit, your 3 minutes are up. Okay.
There was another incident on a Saturday where you called the chief building official for the city of Kenner and asked him to go and address a sign that was located at the corner of Power Boulevard and West Esplanade. It was a Saturday, and that employee happened to be one of mine, so he called me and asked him what I should do. And when he told me what was going on, my first response was, that's not even in the city of Kenner, so you will not do anything. But is it accurate that on a Saturday, you called the chief building official for the city of Kenner and asked him to go address a political sign at the corner of West Esplanade and Power Boulevard? That's a question.
No response.
Okay. And is it accurate? Well, it's not, I don't need to ask you if it's accurate because you're not going to respond. The issue is that this was a Saturday. When somebody directs a civil servant to go work overtime, we are mandated by law to pay that man at least 2 hours of overtime. In contradiction to the city charter, councilman called that man directly and asked him to go to unincorporated Jefferson Parish to remove a political sign of one of his
Mr. Chairman,
opponents.
I have to advise you, you no longer have a quorum.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Do we need a quorum for me to speak?
Yes, we have to have a quorum to continue the council meeting.
I'll pick it up next week. Thank you.
They're gone. You want me to go make sure?
Yes, okay. I'll second it. You moving? We don't have a quorum, so we can't do that. Okay.
Now I'll move to adjourn.
Okay. I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a quorum, and now I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, second by Councilmember Klein,
To adjourn.
to adjourn tonight.
Aye.
Aye.